The basement, where nerdiness thrives, and grown men rant about toys.
Welcome back, Basement Dwellers.
Yeah, what is up, motherfuckers?
We're doing a little bit of a nighttime recording this time, and it's pretty chill, actually. You know, basement after dark, if you will.
Basement After Dark.
Now we are reaching what I would call the climax of the View United Way. Like if Chasing Amy was Kevin Smith's like indie masterpiece, this is like his Lord of the Rings epic. If you catch my drift.
Yeah, this is it is very much a sort of send up or homage to some of the old biblical epics of
It's modern day fantasy in a way. At least the way it's like structured and shot.
yeah, hell yeah.
I really loved this movie rewatching it.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
It holds up way more than I think people would give it credit for, especially with the subject matter that it tackles. Like, I always got like the different arguments for Chasing Amy, like whether or not that movie aged well or not for you. Like, that is perfectly debatable, but I think this movie holds up like it's still relevant to this day, the questions that it brings up. You know, it's kind of timeless.
Yeah, exactly. It's incredibly timeless because all of the themes and things that they talk about in this movie are things that people are going to continue to talk about for the rest of human life.
It's always going to be, it's the never-ending debate. And I think
Religion, abortion.
Yeah, it's really checking off all the boxes.
Yeah.
I think another reason why this movie connected with me so well, like on a personal level, is just because I remember, you know, I was raised Catholic. So a lot of the jokes that they pull in this movie, like about the church changing its traditions and stuff like that, like in a way, I lived through that. I remember seeing like all of a sudden we were changing phrases and stuff like that. This was before I kind of like, you know, hit teenhood and started questioning all this stuff. So I have like, the questions it brings up are very, you know, relatable, I would say. For like, especially when you're a teen first discovering this movie, it really does just like hit all the right buttons, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it is, to me, just like with Chasing Amy, for a movie that came out when it did, it is pretty damn progressive and brought out some, you know, asked some questions and brought to light some things that a lot of people could be uncomfortable with, and it kind of just tackles it head on.
And what I like about this movie, though, is it never really seems inflammatory of the faith. You know what I mean?
It's not preachy, and it also it makes its points, and even though it pokes fun at certain aspects of the faith, it's never saying that it's wrong to have any kind of faith.
Yeah, it really leaves it open to like whatever you believe in, and I like that sort of mentality. I really like what Chris Rock's character says, where it's like, you don't have beliefs, you have ideas. I really like that way of thinking,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It really is, I don't know if it might be Kevin Smith's most mature script. I really am. This and Chasing Amy are a really good duology in his career, where like he was really just stepping up his game, and you really had a sense that he was trying to top himself with each film, because I feel like each movie comes out and he tries harder and harder, and the reviews still come back, bashing him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that really just fueled his fire throughout the late 90s, and then he reached an age where he just stopped giving a shit about what the critics said, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's like, I'm just gonna make movies for me, man.
And, I like that. I like that he's doing that. Good for him. But, I still don't need to watch Yoga Hosers.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. Eventually I'll get there.
I was surprised with how well this movie was done. It might actually, take the top spot once we finally reach the end of this retrospective. It's a big contender for number one.
Yeah, all these years it has always been my favorite one, mostly because I'm a big fan of any movie that gets heavy on the, I wouldn't say religious parody, but, religious parody. And I like the fact that this, another thing that makes it my favorite is the fact that it goes deeper in, I'm just going to say it, Christian mythology. Like Chris Rock straight up says in the movie, man, he hates it when y'all refer to it as mythology. But let's fucking get real. But it goes deep in all that stuff where it's not just the straight up Bible. They throw in Paradise Lost shit in there with talking about the battle in heaven, and when Lucifer Morningstar is cast out of heaven and shit. The actual Bible doesn't really get too heavy into all that shit. And so I like the fact that this movie does all that, and it even brings in other ideas that, with Jesus having brothers and sisters. Everybody knows that, but the Bible, hardly, it briefly mentions shit like that.
It blends, the story and the history together in a way that kind of gives you the best of both worlds, you know what I mean?
Yeah. You get Metatron in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Serendipity.
just... Huh?
You get, stuff like the Muse, Serendipity. There's so many different things that it's covering that aren't just your straightforward Bible story.
Exactly. And like I said, I'm a major fan of anything that sort of eschews, what's the word I'm looking for? Traditional religious views. My favorite Monty Python movie is The Life of Brian. God, there was another one I was going to list that does that kind of shit, but I can't really remember right now.
I mean, I always liked the old, Mel Brooks parodies, the History of the
Yeah,
World.
that was one I was going to say.
The 15 Commandments.
Yeah, I brought you these 15
Yeah,
10
come on.
commandments.
That was a great gag. So I was never somebody who was, strict with religious views, you know what I mean? So I don't really get offended by this stuff. If anything, I see it as, a lesson in critical thinking, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And see, like me, when I was growing up, when I was a kid, my grandparents were incredibly religious, and to the point where it was unhealthy, and
Yeah,
they,
almost obsessive.
huh?
Yeah, it was like basically obsessive, and
Yeah,
that's what the movie kind of tries to point out. Is like it shouldn't be something that's like what is Salma Hayek's character mentioned? It's like you guys like mourn your religion. It's like that's not what it should be.
yeah. It's like a burden.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they were heavily Pentecostal, watching TBN all day long, shit like that. And when I was a little kid, before I knew any better, they would tell me all this shit. And but then once I got older to actually read the stuff myself, you
Yeah.
know, I'm still fascinated by uh, pretty much all religion. Um,
Fascinating because it's not only just what's taught in these different schools of thought, it's also how people react to it. You know,
yeah,
everybody has a
exactly.
different interpretation of religion, and I think that's what makes it such a muddled and heavy argument is because, you know, everyone, like, you may be, like, joined together by a religion, but everyone has their own different take of, like, how they celebrate that religion.
Yeah. And but yeah, I hated my grandparents because of how ridiculously religious they were. Like it was, it was unhealthy. That's at
I'm thankful that, like,
least my parents were more, then my parents were more open minded.
yeah,
Uh,
I like how open-minded, you know, I was raised because, like, yeah, I went to church when I was a kid, like, because that's how my parents were raised, but they were never really, like, strict about it. I went to a couple Sunday school classes, but then once I reached a certain age, like, once I reached my teenage years, she's like, listen, if you don't want to come to church anymore, like, you don't really have to. And the way I always looked at it, I always, quite frankly, like, hated going to church because, like, it felt more like an obligation rather than, like, hey, I'm going to actually, like, learn something today. You know what I mean? I remember, you see it in the movie, I remember being one of those kids who was just screwing around in the altars.
oh yeah.
Like, I was, like, writing something in, like, my journal, you know, already coming up with early comics and stuff like that. Um, and once I reached my teenage years, I rethought about that, and I was like, you know, it's all. I almost felt disrespectful in a way, but then I realized, like, my school of thought is like I don't really need to go down to a place to be spiritual. You know what I mean? If there
Yeah.
is a God, you know, I could, you know, worship it from my house. You know what I mean? It's wherever.
Yeah, pagans and witches and they've all been worshiping from their houses and from wherever. They never had to go to a strict building.
It's not like this one building is like the transmitter to God.
Right.
And this, you know, the mentality I'm at now is like I'm just open towards anything. You know, if there's nothing, if there's something, you know, I don't know. So I'm just open to it being anything. You know.
Yeah, I still like to believe that angels are aliens.
You know, it's an interesting theory.
Damn
Someone
sure
told
is.
me this shit.
So, are we ready to get into the review?
Absolutely.
Alright. Alright, it's not as fresh on my brain as I would like it to be. We watched it, I think, Monday night, or Sunday night. I can't really remember. But where does it open up? Does it open up with Loki and Bartleby, or does it open up with the rollerblade kids?
It opens up with the rollerblade kids beating up the old man on the boardwalk. Because that just kind of gets everything started.
Yeah. So they show up. This old man's just chilling on the bench, enjoying himself.
One of the hockey kids just kind of looks like a little Jason Mewes, I always thought.
Yeah, man.
Sounds like, a genetic clone of Jason Mewes, just slightly younger.
It's a mini-me.
We get kind of like a cool Evil Dead shot when they roll up to the old man, a good POV, but something that you're going to hear throughout the entire movie is whenever these kids skate by, they almost have kind of like a buzzing sort of like...
Yeah, like bees.
Yeah, or a mosquito or something. Like they're just pests.
Yeah, and that was something I noticed. I was like, that's a cool ass little touch.
Well, that's cool, and what makes me laugh is that they make it go by so fast. Like they zoom by, like zoom, zoom. But then in the actual shot, they're moving by like at a brisk pace. Like they're just going...
Yeah.
It's going back to like that Mallrats sort of humor, which I don't know if it was intentional, but like it makes me chuckle.
Yeah. So they beat the shit out of the old man. And then where does it go? Does it go to Bartleby and Loki after that?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have Bartleby, played by
Ben Affleck,
and
we have Loki, who's played by Matt Damon. So you got the Good Will Hunting crew, and this is the first big role, and probably only big role that, it's the only big role that Matt Damon had in the Kevin Smith movie.
Matt Damon.
And you know what? He brings such a good charisma to the role that, like...
Yeah, man.
It's easy, like, especially at that time. I'm sure people were really harping on them, you know what I mean? There was the big controversy over did they write the Good Will Hunting script and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I dare say that this might be Ben Affleck's best performance. Or at least my personal favorite, because you could tell he's given it 110%, almost like 90% of the movie.
Yeah, and it's fucking crazy because I'm pulling up his filmography now because this movie was released in 1999. At this point, he's basically, wow, he's like a rising star at this point, but it's weird when I'm looking at his fucking filmography here, man. It's like never, wow. It's like he's a rising star, but then he'll still do little indie flicks like Dogma, and he'll still step out of his comfort zone. Like he's not afraid to do something different.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's like you go down the discography, there's straight up garbage, and in fact, I would argue almost more garbage than good shit. But yeah, so
I mean,
at this point, he is,
he's just famous enough.
Yeah, it's crazy. Think about this. When I'm looking at his shit now, Kevin Smith just about gave him his first starring role.
Pretty much, yeah.
There's some movie called Glory Days before Chasing Amy. I've never seen it, so I don't know how much of him is in there, but that's pretty damn interesting. But yeah, they're sitting there at an airport, and
I've always liked this scene of Loki convincing the nun to reject the faith.
Yeah, I love the shit out of that.
Because Loki is such an interesting character because he's right on the borderline of being like a bad guy, but like in the back of his mind, like he knows all the rules.
Yeah. Because he was it Loki that was the angel of death?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And fucking, so yeah, he would have to kind of play by the rules, and you kind of wonder, God, how does this go down? It is so not fucking fresh on me, man. Um,
What happens in the scene?
yeah, so
He
he
convinced the nun to like take the money that she had gotten donations from and go buy herself a dress. And I love the line he says. So he jumps over to talk to Ben Affleck. He's like, "I just love fucking with the clergy, man."
yeah, that's it. And Ben Affleck says, "You knowing that there is a God, you've seen him in person, um, and you're convincing these people that he isn't real."
And what I like about this scene also is like what we get established later is like what their rank of angels are, and that Ben Affleck is a watcher. And we see him in the airport, like that's exactly what he's doing. He just likes to observe these little moments in humanity that he just finds touching, like two people like meeting each other for the first time after a long trip.
Yeah, and he says, she cheated on him.
Yeah, it's just really witty dialogue that's like, it is humorous, but it's also just intriguing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But he's like, she cheated on him 3 times when he was away, and right now it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. All that hatred, all that jealousy, just away in one moment.
So now what happens?
They find out about what's going on at the church.
Yeah, they get a letter. Oh, god damn it.
That's how the movie actually opens up, is with George Carlin introducing the Buddy Christ.
Yeah, the Buddy Christ. So is that the very first scene of the movie?
Yeah, I'm remembering it now. It starts off with the church.
Yeah, George Carlin's first appearance in the Askewniverse.
And he kills it. He's absolutely fantastic. They just pretty much let him be himself as the priest.
Yeah.
A line that always got a chuckle out of me is like, people find us a little passé, even hokey.
Yeah.
And the Buddy Christ has become such a meme in recent times. Like, I knew that image before I even knew about Kevin Smith, so it's pretty interesting how these little images from his movies just become kind of commonplace.
Yeah, and I like that too, because, he's like, why we've always had this same depiction of Jesus, in pain and suffering, so we want to change that. And so they give us the Buddy Christ. He's winking, got a big old smile on his face, and he's doing the thumbs up. Fucking phenomenal.
That kind of stuff. Because, like I said, I remember being a kid in church and all of a sudden saying one phrase and then being told, "Oh no, we switched it. Now we say it this way," and it really confusing me. I'm like, wait, well, if this is like God stuff, like, how does that? Like, who decides to change?
Seriously.
So then after that, we cut to the airport, and they find out about it in the newspaper.
Yeah.
And that's when they discover the loophole of how they can get home, because they've been banished to Wisconsin for, like, eternity.
Yeah, since the early days. The early days of humanity.
It's really tough to remember, like, the exact days and the exact, like, points of biblical history, because he just deep dived so much of this lore into there. And it is what makes it interesting, but it's a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, they, because it's obviously after the war in heaven with Morningstar and Michael and his angels and shit. Because what was the deal? They were getting drunk, and Bartleby convinced him to quit.
But he went to God right away and just flipped him off and laid down his sword.
Yeah. That's
so he drunkenly
hilarious.
stumbled out of there, and they got punished for it.
And that's great because they have these two angels, and they sort of just quit, like how every American wants to quit their job. You know what I mean? Like, you just want to flip off your boss.
And I also love how they don't show these scenes of like over the top special effects or anything like that just to get a gag in of like Matt Damon stumbling out of heaven. Like, it really just paints. You can paint your own picture in your head, and it's just more humorous.
Yeah, exactly. You know, because at that point, it had just been a bunch of needless cutaway jokes.
And also, it's because it takes a moment for your brain, and I would assume in 1999, it takes a moment for your brain to, like, accept that, oh, these larger-than-life religious figures could be, like, just as human as us.
Yeah.
Because they were people, or they are, like, somewhat, you know, even if they're immortal, they're still, like, have human qualities to them.
Yeah. And, so they come...
Like, escalator thing, and what I always loved, or what I noticed about this scene recently, is that you see the nun again from the scene with Matt Damon in the background, just going crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily what she's doing, like, she's running into people and shit, but, like, it looks like she's freaking out. I think Loki just, like, broke her mind.
Yeah. Because she's lived her whole life following the way. And all it took was one man over-explaining it to her. And now her entire world is broken. I want to know what happens to the nun after this. But they come up with the idea. Okay, we're gonna go to New Jersey. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this loophole. We're gonna go home. They just want to go back into heaven, and because they're tired of being in Wisconsin. You know, they don't have dicks. They can't get drunk.
Sucks for them.
Yeah, and so fucking Loki comes up with the idea. You know, I can start doing some of my Angel of Death shit again. You know, that'll really get on his good side, and you know, old fashioned fire and brimstone shit. And so that sort of sets up their journey.
That they're gonna head to this church, and what was the loophole again? They have to.
Because in lore, if an angel's wings are removed, they become mortal, they become human. And so their idea would be remove their wings, and if they walked through this arch, and this is a very Catholic thing, especially in Catholicism, where it's like, hey, here's a thing, do this, and all your sins are forgiven. So he said, if you walk through this arch, all your sins will be forgiven. We're starting over, you know.
To go back home.
Yeah, Catholics start over more than comic books.
And what I like about this universe that Kevin Smith has created is that humans could affect the gods in a way. That because the clergy revamped this church, it kind of created this glitch in the system.
Yeah. And it actually gets these larger-than-life beings worried. Because they know that this man-made idea, because really, when you look at it, it's like, who, just because you said I can walk under this arch, all my sins are forgiven, like, makes it actually happen. Let's say sins are a tallied thing, and, you know, that would be like me saying, hey, man, spin around 4 times and shit your pants. and all your sins are forgiven. You know, like that's one of those things I like about this movie is the fact that it takes that bullshit and it's such a silly ass idea.
It kind of makes these characters like put the money where their mouth is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So that's basically the loophole. What they'll do is they walk through as humans. All sins are forgiven, and then their idea is to have somebody kill them. They can't kill each other, and they can't kill themselves. So the idea was to start all that havoc, you know, before they go through the arch. That way, police would come out there and kill them, and therefore they would go to heaven as mortal souls.
And it's such a morbidly hilarious idea.
Yeah, it's real well thought out. Real well thought out.
So well written that it doesn't come off as too dark.
Yeah, because at this point you're still wondering, all right, what is this movie about?
Exactly.
So after this, do we cut to the abortion clinic?
Yeah. So we're in Illinois, which is pretty unique for this movie, as he takes us out of Jersey.
Yeah, I mean, like Chasing Amy had, you know, a lot of it took place in, some of it took place in New York, but that's
Still
Jersey.
relatively close to Jersey.
Huh?
Still relatively close to
Yeah,
Jersey.
that's what I was about to say. That's basically Jersey's neighbor. But yeah, so we're at an abortion clinic now, and we meet our main lady, Bethany Sloan, played by Linda. What the hell is? How do you spell? Fiorentino.
Yeah. People usually
Fiorentino.
get caught up on that name.
Huh?
People usually get caught up on that name. It took me a while to get it.
Yeah, Fiorentino.
Fiorentino.
Yeah, Fiorentino.
What else? Have you seen her in anything else?
No, but I'm pulling up her filmography now, and no. Wow.
Because I've always liked how
Men in Black. She was in Men in Black.
Yeah, I think she was.
Played a Laurel Weaver. I don't remember that character. But wow. Other than that, okay, What Planet Are You From? I remember that movie. Shit, though. Dude, after Dogma?
Oh, she was the main love interest of Men in Black. So yeah. She was in that.
Really?
Yeah. She was the one who was supposed to be teamed up with Will Smith at the end, and then they just get rid of her in the sequel.
Really? Like, she looks, like, not fucking familiar at all.
I know. Like, I'm looking at pictures of her, and I'm like, wow, is that really? It is her. So there you go. Those are the two movies that I know her from. But her performance in this is damn fine.
Yeah.
I like this kind of dry, tired, kind of fed up with this world attitude that she brings to it. Like, she's the perfect character to be sent on this kind of journey because she just seems so down to earth.
Yeah, she's just over everything.
Especially given her situation in life, like, she gives a perfectly believable performance as this person whose life has just fucked them over, and she feels like she's wasting her time going to church every Sunday, and she feels like she's basically praying to nothing because nothing has gone right for her.
And she's just keeps going because she's used to it.
It's just become part of the routine. And I love that scene where you see, like, the kids fighting in the stands. One guy's listening to music. People are, like, doing their checkbooks. They're just reading the Bible. Like, no one's actually paying attention to the actual ceremony.
Yeah.
It's just it's sad, but it's true, you know?
It damn sure is. And the kids just fucking being annoying as all fuck. Uh, but that's a very true to life um, church scene.
And don't they also, I believe in the church, the priest is talking about the attack that happened on the old man? Like,
Yeah, he's talking about John Doe Jersey and how they some people want to take him off life support, but they're not trying to take him off life support. And so after this is the abortion clinic, huh?
yeah, and this is where we get the cameo from Brian Johnson and Walt Flanagan. So they're not really playing Steve Dave, but because they're from Illinois in this, but it's still nice that they're in the movie. It just wouldn't be a View Askew universe movie if they didn't show up in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, seriously.
And Brian Johnson not only appears in the film, his name also gets mentioned in the script, so it's a double cameo.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so you have protesters, and damn it, what are they saying?
They're like, you fucking baby killer, like basic stuff like that.
Yeah, basic ass shit. But she goes into the clinic, and
Janine Garofalo.
Janine fucking Garofalo, the lady who was like incredibly popular, but does not. I mean, she has been in a ton of movies, but I hate to say it, she's incredibly forgettable in like everything I've ever seen her in.
I liked her in Wet Hot American Summer.
I haven't even seen that, but I'm looking at her filmography and I'm like, okay, I saw this, but I don't really remember her. Oh, she was in this movie?
Like, she's not on the top of any of my lists, but...
Like, I remember her mostly in Mystery Men. Okay, alright. But I forgot she was in it until now.
And it's weird that she gets one scene in this movie when she's the bigger star in the scene, quite frankly.
Yeah, definitely.
It almost makes you wonder, it's like, was she up for the role of Bethany and maybe, like, I don't want to say too expensive, because I'm like, this movie has Chris Rock and Alanis Morissette, like, there's names, big names in the movie.
But you also gotta think, there's 8 fucking movies that she is in, released in '99 alone.
But she's just all over the place.
Yeah, she might have just been too busy.
We're like, we can get her for one day.
Yeah, we only got you for one day.
Use it. We need it. So the abortion clinic talk is pretty interesting. I like how real the dialogue starts off. The movie starts in such a real place and then just gradually gets more and more fantastical as it goes along. Like, even in the beginning airport scene, there's a couple of gags here and there, like, oh, let's go kill some people. But everything, no pun intended, everything begins kind of low-key.
Yeah. And that's a line I love at the airport when they're talking about it. They're like, yeah, let's go kill some people. And then like the guy looks at him. He's like, no, not you.
Cut the title card.
Yeah. So yeah, fuck.
Janine Garofalo is telling Bethany that, like, she needs to find a man. That's all she needs. And I feel like this is the one scene where the dialogue didn't age too well, but it is just one scene out of, like, a larger thing, and it needs to get the plot rolling, and it needs to start introducing these themes. So it really is just a personal gripe on my end and not really a fault of the movie, you know? Like, you have to get there.
Yeah, we gotta find out that she's divorced and she can't have kids. You know, so her girlfriend's gotta be all like, you need a man.
Yeah, that was the one scene where I'm like, yeah,
You need a wiener in that Valoni.
yeah, exactly. It's more of just like a plot dump.
Yeah.
Here is your character arc, Bethany.
You're going to learn to love your life without a man, and you're gonna have a baby. Um,
Is this where we cut to what happens after this?
I think after this, fuck, dude.
Because things get rolling pretty quickly.
Yeah, I want to say after this is probably when she's sleeping and wakes up to the great Alan Rickman.
Behold the Metatron, voice of the one true God.
And that's such a great scene. There's the fire and shit, and she wakes up, and he's saying all that shit, and her first thought is to, boom, go for the fire extinguisher.
And what I like about this gag is that it could have easily went the route of, like, one of the Scary Movie kind of things, where, like, he does a pratfall after he gets extinguished and shit like that. Like, it could have been really slapsticky, but I just like how it almost makes it more goofy that he's just standing there after being, like, fucking extinguished.
And he's like, oh, you gotta use the whole fucking thing.
Yeah. I think the Metatron is probably my favorite character in the entire movie.
Yeah.
I think the Rickman, I grew up watching him as Snape, you know, and Hans Gruber, like these very serious roles. And just, this was before I saw Love Actually, so I didn't know he could do comedy. And he just knocked it, like, right out of the park. Every line delivery he does cracks my shit up.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the standout characters.
He's got kind of this Sid Vicious kind of look to him, which is
man.
Like,
He's got some punk rocker hair going on.
Dumpy London punk of an angel.
Yeah, man. And
I'm as anatomically correct as a Ken doll.
Yeah. Fucking
And the wind effects are fucking great. Like, it's a really good practical effect, and it looks just, like, cool enough, but also just silly enough.
What, the showing no dick?
That, and also the wingspan. I was talking about the wings.
Oh, yeah. The wing shit is cool because they make the wings actually look like they have life in them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, little bits of the wings move.
Yeah. They're always doing something.
Yeah, like, they're not just on their backs not doing shit.
So, this is where it gets explained. I've always just liked the concept of the Metatron, that there has to be a job for the voice of God.
Yeah, because, you know, if you were to hear the actual voice of God, basically you're gonna die.
I just love that concept so much because it seems so true. Like, the human brain can only withstand so much that it kind of makes sense that just not only witnessing God, but hearing it would probably just be so foreign and, like, almost Lovecrafty in a way, just incomprehensible to the human mind.
Yeah, God is an old one.
Makes too much sense, man.
He's an elder god.
So this is where I like the teleportation effect. Everything about this movie works so well because it doesn't overdo the effects. All it is like a simple wipe, and they're just in the Mexican restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
This scene is a lot better with its dialogue, and I think it's just because Alan Rickman just has so much more personality in the role, and he's such a character that when he's explaining all this history about Loki and Bartleby, it just comes off as more entertaining.
Yeah, because it's easily could have just been cheap exposition, which ultimately you could say it is. But like you said, the dude had. I don't think anybody else could have played this role.
No,
Because Alan Rickman, yeah, Metatron has to dump a lot of exposition. And in fact, a lot of characters are dumping a lot of exposition. And even like close to the end of the movie, it's still a lot of, hey, I'm this person, this is what I'm here for, this is that person, this is what they're here for. Wow, we should be past all this, but now you're still throwing shit at us?
it
And
don't make sense because it's in the modern day where this stuff just isn't known. So if this were to realistically happen, you know what I mean? They would be stopping every 2 seconds to explain the history behind it.
And it works because like all the actors are convincing enough, and especially with Alan Rickman and the way.
And they give him like little quirks and things to do during the scene, like he's sipping the tequila and then spitting it back up.
Yeah.
And it keeps you like wondering, like, why the fuck is he doing that until he explains what Loki did. He ruined it for the rest of the angels.
Yeah, so now all the angels can't get drunk.
Hence the spitting. One of my favorite line exchanges is he's talking about the time Bartleby convinced Loki, and it was right after Loki was killing the firstborn of Egypt. And Bethany's reaction is the same. Like, I even remember thinking it when I was watching the movie for the first time. You automatically click it in your head, the 10th plague, and he just calls the audience straight out for it. The only reason you really know this stuff is because of the Charlton Heston movie.
Yeah.
You know, it's a fact. I'm sorry, it's true.
That and the Rugrats Passover special.
Hell yeah.
Speaking of which, do you know what today is?
Good Friday, my dude.
Yeah. So
it's kind of perfectly timed that we're doing this podcast around this time of year.
yeah.
It's almost fate in a way.
Yeah, Sunday is Easter, but don't forget to slaughter a lamb and smear its blood on your door frame, or God will kill your firstborn child tonight.
So look out.
Yeah, look out, people. You
Loki's
don't want
not
that firstborn to die.
I could just hear Creeping Death playing in my head.
Fuck. So, let me smoke a cigarette, get another beer, and we'll come back with the rest of the scene. Okay, we're back from the quick break, and you said that you had some more things you wanted to say about.
Yeah, I really like the foreshadowing of Jay and Silent Bob because it is a little obvious.
The prophets.
It's too funnily written. The one who likes to talk a lot, and he will.
And he will.
And then I just love the other one. He's not much of a talker.
Yeah, not much of a talker. Exactly. And I like the fact that Jay and Silent Bob are the two prophets, especially when you get into Revelations. Because you've got the two prophets in Revelations, and just to make them two of the most iconic stoner duos of all time.
It just adds that extra Kevin Smithy flavor to it. It's what makes it a true U.S. universe experience.
Exactly.
There's C-3PO and R2-D2 of this universe where they have to show up.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
But we actually were recapping some scenes and we missed one.
We missed one because for some reason the first handful of scenes are very short and
very quick.
Yeah, just very quick. And yeah, so we forgot the great Jason Lee shows up.
The introduction of Azrael, the demon, the fucking demon.
Yeah, and he is basically, you find out that these the little rollerblade hockey kids are demons. That Azrael basically is their boss. And it's funny, he knocks on this lady's door and he's asking her about her air conditioning.
Is your air conditioner running? And what I always liked about this scene is they used pretty much a hockey stick as a scythe.
Yeah, they just stabbed this lady in the fucking back with a goddamn hockey stick.
And I remember, since I was never into sports and my brother was always playing hockey, every time I looked at this thing as a kid, I would just be like, this just looks like a dulled scythe. It always reminded me of, like, the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So that was, like, a fun little thing. I'm like, oh, there's just a clever use of the prop.
But this is one thing I forgot to mention was this was the first Jay and Silent Bob Kevin Smith movie that I ever saw.
Oh.
Yeah, I was. And what's funny is I had already known of Jay and Silent Bob because of the action figure line that were. I actually have those two action figures hanging on my wall. The first actual Jay and Silent Bob action figures, I used to get this magazine called Toy Fair when we were kids, and it was all about, collecting toys and stuff. And
Jay and Silent Bob ones that kind of looked like the Mallrats design, but just like a more cartoony, and they had like the realistic hair.
Yeah, and
I have the Silent Bob figure of that.
So what?
Because I know I have the Silent Bob figure from that one.
Yeah, and they have like a ton of accessories. Like they got a carton of cigarettes and fucking the blueprints and stuff. But yeah, I knew them from that. And then I remember in the advertisement in Toy Fair it was saying Jay and Silent Bob from Clerks and Mallrats. And fucking this was the first one I ever saw all the way through, but I was probably about 14, but it wasn't the first time I saw Jay and Silent Bob in a movie. It was when my buddies and I went to go see Scream 3 in the movie theater, and there's that random ass Jay and Silent Bob cameo in Scream 3.
Yeah, that's right. I did hear about that, because I remember we watched the original Scream a couple of podcasts back, and that was my first time seeing Scream. But through, researching Kevin Smith, completely forgot, yeah, they made a cameo in Scream 3.
So, which is weird, because now that kind of puts Scream in the fucking Askew-universe.
Fucking Miramax.
This is on the lines of that Saint Elsewhere universe that just opens up a massive can of worms for all kinds of different TV series solely based on how that series ends. So now you're like, oh man, so that means Cheers and Frasier takes place in the head of an autistic boy, and it gets fucking...
you ever thought was real?
Yeah, it gets deep. But the guy originally, alright, this is going on a different tangent, but the way that St. Elsewhere ended, the little autistic boy is staring in a snow globe, that in that snow globe is the St. Elsewhere Hospital. Well, the original planned ending with that was when they say, oh, we don't know what's wrong with your kid, he just stares in the snow globe. After that, they were going to pick up that snow globe and set it on a mantle, and on that mantle would be a bunch of snow globes, and one snow globe would have the Cheers bar, and one snow globe would have like this place and that place from other familiar shows that crossed over with St. Elsewhere, and that would have been, I thought that would have been really cool.
It would have been next level, especially for a show like that at the time.
Definitely. But so back to this.
So they kill the woman and take over the house, and all he wants is that central air, bro.
Yeah, and I've always wondered about that. I guess he just hates being in hell because it's hot.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it's getting at, and you'd assume that's all a demon would really want at the end of the day is just some air.
Some good ass air conditioning.
So this is where he sends them on the mission to go after Bethany in Illinois.
Yeah. Now, is it pronounced Illinois or Illinois?
I go back and forth.
Yeah, me too. But I'm like always, whenever I say Illinois, I'm like, damn, did I just sound stupid?
But it's kind of like when I talk about Michael Fassbender. Sometimes I'll go Michael Fassbender. I'm like, I don't know. Like, so multiple choice.
Yeah. Fuck it. There's an S in Illinois.
Exactly. So we cut back to the abortion clinic. She's leaving late, and
yeah,
it actually is a pretty decent action scene. You know what I mean? It's suspenseful. They do pose an actual threat. I just love snooch to the motherfucking nooch. They come right down.
Yeah, because what happens is, alright, she's goddamn leaving. It's dark. She's got her car keys, and she keeps hearing these whoosh, right? And it's the fucking hockey kids. And, they knock her on the ground, and her keys are laying there. And this is kind of retarded. It's like, alright, you guys, this is your shot right fucking here. And instead,
it's that classic villain shit where it's just they won't do it.
Yeah, he knocks the keys under the car, and they mighty ducks this shit. They mighty duck this shit, right? Like, the three of them are just standing there, fucking... It's like, this is why you guys fail. This is why you guys fail.
Things can't happen. But, this might be the best introduction to Jay and Silent Bob in the series, because I just love the close-up on the cigarette as he's lighting it.
Yeah.
The sky. This is the first time the only time really, that Jay and Silent Bob are straight up heroes.
Yeah, just whooping these motherfuckers' ass. And you know what it reminds me of? The way it's shot. You don't see them. You get these little flashes. They're getting punched and thrown around. It reminds me of the slight introduction of the Ninja Turtles in the very first Ninja Turtle movie.
Yeah. It's very reminiscent of that. You don't see them head on. You're just kind of watching, the madness.
They break the light with the sign, and you just kind of hear them whooping ass.
That is a really good connection. I didn't think about it like that, but it's true.
But yeah, they saved the fucking day.
Side tangent. I've been meaning to rewatch the original Ninja Turtles movies, at least the first two, because those were like staples of my childhood, and I haven't watched them in a long ass time.
We should do them on the show, man.
I will defend Secret of the Ooze till the cows come home. I fucking love that movie.
Oh, yeah, it's fun. I still like the first one better, but...
I mean, objectively, it's just kind of like the best Ninja Turtles movie. Like, it's the best way that story could have ever come out.
Yeah, there is no other Ninja Turtles movie that is as good as that very first one.
It's just, and it's because it's one of those concepts that really can only work once. But fucking Secret of the Use has the nostalgia points for me. It really is just out of sheer, nostalgia. But it's like I have no complaints about that movie until I rewatch it. Maybe we'll find some.
Yeah, and if we do that, we definitely got to do the third one.
Oh fuck! No.
Yeah, man. Ugh.
Help! I'm a turtle and I can't get up. Makes a in your mouth.
So yeah, so they save the day, and then it cuts to Loki and Bartleby buying a gun. And,
with a cameo by Jeff Anderson.
Yeah, Jeff Anderson. And you're like, damn, Randall's running a gun store.
Earlier in the movie, we had the Grant Hicks cameo, like right off the bat when they were talking about the church's revamps. He was on the television. So we have pretty much like the Clerks reunion in a way, because I think this is the first time we see Jeff Anderson in like something outside of Clerks. Like I think in the Mallrats cast, he like is in the background somewhere, but this is the first time like he's had like a featured cameo outside of the role of Randall.
Yeah. So then we go. They're.
I thought it was a fun scene. Like it kind of comes out of nowhere because it cuts from Bethany to that back to Bethany, but it's like the dialogue is so fun that I kind of love that it's there.
Yeah, talk about how it's not a flaming sword.
It's because Bartleby and Loki's dynamic is just so fun to watch, where I mentioned it in the Chasing Amy podcast, where a lot of the Kevin Smith movies, the character is like you have the more loose one and the more stuck up one. But in this case, like, it still sort of is that dynamic, but I like how back and forth it goes. Like, sometimes Loki will be the more rational one, and then sometimes Bartleby will start going off the deep end, especially by the end of the movie. It sort of sways the other way. So just watching them bicker and seeing how their relationship has pretty much lasted for eons, like how their dynamic works, it's just fun to observe, And Jeff Anderson's just staring at them like fucking they have two heads, because he's talking about how raining sulfur is a hard fucking job and that it's practically art. He's like, it's the most annoying thing to do next to soccer.
Yeah, it's just so goddamn funny. So then it cuts to Bethany, Jay, and Bob in a diner, and you find out why Jay and Bob are in Illinois. It's because they're trying to find this town that is in a lot of John Hughes movies. And they're name dropping all these John Hughes movies, and then they get to Illinois, find out it's a fictional town.
There is no Sherman, Illinois. And this might be one of my favorite representations of Jay and Silent Bob. I think they really mixed every incarnation of them really well. Like, if not the Mallrats version, this might be to me the definitive Jay and Silent Bob. It's hard to say
because they aren't as cartoony as they are in Mallrats. This is closer to the Strikes Back Jay and Bob, where Jay is just a really dumb foul-mouthed motherfucker, while Bob has his more smiley and wavy, always waving kind of personality. Like, this to me is like the moment they really got it down.
Yeah, this is where the routine really started to take shape.
Yeah.
But in being its early form of that more cartoony Jay and Silent Bob, I feel like they balanced it very well. It's also because it has to fit the tone of the movie, whereas something like Strikes Back is more of a live-action cartoon where you could, like, go over all the way with it, you know?
Yeah.
I like this whole sequence because it gets the plot rolling, but it also just establishes our characters' motives. And you could tell that Bethany really wishes that there could be any other way around this, that she's just stuck with these two bozos. And all they're concerned about, or at least all Jay is concerned about, is getting in her pants.
Yeah, just constantly fucking, constantly fucking trying to fuck her.
And it's like, it is creepy, but it's just the way it comes off. It's written in a way that's so, you know, cartoonish that, like, it doesn't reach that creep factor. Like, it just, it's a dumb funny moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he just won't take no as an answer, like, to the point where he has to come up with the most ridiculous scenario. Like, if there's a bomb about to go off or something.
We have 5 minutes left to live.
And there's just great quotes in this line, so I always like to pull out, I start sobbing like a like a little girl with a skinned knee and shit.
Yeah, and so do you do anal? Is it true that chicks fart when,
That's them in the ass.
Oh my god.
And the one that gets me the most, I love how Jay is the irreverent one, but then the moment, like, somebody retaliates, like, either he overreacts, or in this case, he's just like, I'll scream rape.
Yeah, seriously.
And then later on, like, she snaps at them, and he's just like, well, what the fuck is up with you? We fell in love with you. I fell in love with you. Like, he always makes it like he did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like Han Solo, you're Chewie and wearing that fucked up bar, man.
Holy fuck, all the fine and moral bitches. We have to find the Jesus freak.
And I love how he rocks his own merch. Like, this is where
Snoogans,
we start
man.
the Snoogans hat.
A Snoogans beanie.
It's great. So after that, so she offers them $100 to take her to Jersey under one condition, that he drives. And
this is one of my favorite parts of the whole movie.
Yeah, and it's because it's one of my favorite Jason Mewes line reads. It's not necessarily a good line read, but, like, it's such a genuine Mewes line read that it just has me on the floor. And it's when Bethany's like, what gear are you in? And just the way he goes,
gear? Yeah, they are fucking speeding, hitting 100 miles an hour. The check engine gauge is going on. They are jamming out. And the look on his face, man. And then boom, you just cut to the smoking engine. And he's like, what do I know about shifting?
Like I fucking drove before.
Yeah. Fucking one of my damn favorite goddamn moments in this whole damn series. But yeah, so they get passed by the bus, man. I love this. I love this whole fucking scene right here with Barnaby and Loki talking about bringing on the Lord's wrath.
I love these different discussions that they get into. Like, what was the debate they were going on? Like, what movie will be popular? E.T. or fucking...
Yeah, Crush Groove.
Time will tell on that one.
Yeah, time will tell on that one, man.
And this is the annual Scott Mosier cameo, because we just have, throughout this entire scene, we have this one couple just go into town.
Yeah.
Just make it out. And I love how, again, Scott Mosier always just plays the over-the-top dickhead. In Clerks, he was the one who they played hockey with on top of the store, and he knocks their ball.
Yeah.
I think he just plays one of Mr. Svenning's, like, production assistants in Mallrats, nothing too big. But then we have the Tracer guy and Chasing Amy, and it just feels like he's just a continuation of that guy. It's kind of the same voice and the same look.
Yeah, I like it when he says, like, the major sins never change. And he's like, so what, this is adultery. He's like, how do you know? I like how he just like, are you married? He's like, why?
Not that saying of your fucking business, but no. I'm not married to her.
Yeah. And she has to bother him again, man. And I just love the way this shit plays out, man. He's like, are you married to her? Oh my god. And then he just fucking straight up pulled. He's like, okay, alright, have a good day. And he's like, just thinking about it? Let me get the gun. Fucking love this shit. Boom, you just see a flash in the damn bus and it's fucking spinning out.
They're playing this cheery, like, 1950s music.
Yeah, I like this kind of crooner shit.
I said, whose house? Ron's house.
Yeah, man. This is a great ass fucking sequence right here. I love it.
Fantastic. And again, I love just this trail of destruction that they leave behind. Like they're not in any rush to get to this church yet. I love how reckless they are at the beginning because like later on in the movie they have to be like reminded to keep it like on the down low.
Yeah.
Where at the beginning they're just there with a scorched earth fucking mentality.
Yeah, fucking Old Testament vibes all the way.
So what do we cut to after the bus?
After this is they are unloading the car, and she's like, nobody is fucking me. You got that?
We fell in love with you. You know, nice guys like us just don't fall out of the sky.
And this is, yeah, that's where we get fucking Chris Rock, man. A naked ass Chris Rock.
Big ladies just don't fall out of the sky, you know?
Yeah, dude, that shit's fucking hilarious. And boom, he just falls out of the sky. And yeah, hot big titty women don't fall out of the sky.
Rufus, the 13th apostle.
Yeah, and you know what's weird is, this is a movie with George Carlin and another character is named Rufus.
Facts. Wow. It's true.
But... Say what?
Nah, I'm just laughing over that.
Yeah, they're so he's like, Leah, like in Con Air? Con Air.
That's up like it was nothing. I always liked when he was like, that shit just gave me a migraine.
Yeah, like fucking, he straight up fell from heaven, landed on motherfucking pavement, and all he has is a migraine.
And again, I like that he has all these stories about the olden days with Jesus. Like, throughout the movie, he's constantly going back to, like, different moments he had with Jesus. And, I mean, these are two completely separate movies, but in a way, it reminds me of Last Temptation of Christ, where it's trying to portray Jesus
as a dude. As a fucking man.
As a regular dude who just happens to be the Son of God.
Yeah, like, there's only two fucking good movies made about Jesus, and it's The Last Temptation of Christ with William Dafoe, and is it Oliver Stone that made that?
That was Martin Scorsese.
Martin Scorsese, yeah, I don't know why I'd be getting them mixed up. And the other one is, Jesus Christ Superstar.
Right on. So he takes the scroll out and he's showing Bethany.
Says, no wonder he saw Jesus. He's rocking the gunge.
It's not a joint, it's a scroll. And Jesus was a little bit of an asshole in this situation. It said, Rufus, see you in 2 years.
Yeah.
And this also leads to another one of my favorite lines where it's like, you never heard of a fat apostle.
Yeah, walking all the time.
Dude, he's gonna be shaking his piece in your jacket, man.
Yeah, he's gonna be rubbing in your armor, man. Dude, he fell from the sky.
So this kind of leads us back on the journey because Bethany was ready to give up right there, and then right at that moment, that just kind of leads her back on track. But we also see the demon kids again, but they're kind of beaten up, and they're ready to throw down, but the leader of the three kind of just tells them to fall back.
Yeah. And I like the way they do this, because it's like they just rip a hole in time and space and jump
It's a
through
really
it.
cool thing, too. Like, I like how it looks.
Yeah, like...
It's that charmingly cheap kind of vibe, where
It's very
it's not...
Looney Tunes.
Yeah, exactly. Where it fits the tone of the movie, and it doesn't come off as, like, low budget. You know what I mean? It comes off very intense.
Yeah. And here's the thing I do like about this movie, is the fact that our heroes are just a band of misfits.
Yeah, it's really a motley crew of just different, like, unlikely people.
Yeah, because, even Rufus, like, he's the apostle that's left out of the Bible, but he's got the most real stories about Jesus. Bethany is very just despondent with religion and, arguably life in general, and Jay and Silent Bob as the motherfucking prophets. Yeah, just a sweet, cool-ass band of misfits getting together.
I know I compared the Loki and Bartleby dynamic to the Dante and Randall, but Bethany is really our Dante in the movie, the way she comes off, But it's not in a selfish way what Dante would be, but she is also that kind of, like, she keeps that dry sort of, like, down in the dumps tone throughout the movie until shit really starts getting real and she reaches her breaking point. And I just really love that, how she's going along for the journey, but she really is just, like, hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, she really give a shit.
So it cuts to Azrael talking to the damn hockey kids, and they're all beat up. And then we get the obligatory movies. When is the first time you see movies in this series?
I feel like it might have been this one, because I don't remember seeing movies. It is this one, because it's not in Chasing Amy, it's not in Mallrats, and it's not in Clerks. So this is the introduction to a Skewniverse mainstay.
Yeah, pretty much every popular fast food chain put together.
And what we didn't talk about with the Jason Lee scene when he's talking to the beat up demon kids is that we foreshadowed the shit demon, I believe.
Yeah, the Golgotha.
He mentions that he's going to summon the shit demon, and then we cut to movies, and this is where Rufus gets his new threads, which is the movie's uniform.
Yeah, movie's uniform and a shitty beat up jacket that really just makes him look homeless as all fuck. Especially later on when he's sleeping on the train using that tennis shoe as a pillow. Straight up looking like a homeless dude.
And I do also like that they set up this movie scene because it foreshadows what Loki and Bartleby's scene is going to be. We established the movie's empire before we even get that fantastic boardroom scene.
Yeah.
This is where Rufus lays down, like, the Bible deep cuts. Like, the tracks that didn't make the album, if you will.
Yeah, seriously. The B-sides or the rarities. And
this is always a point that I've enjoyed, where he was mentioning, it's like, well, Jesus wasn't white. That's always something that I've thought about, where it's like, well, realistically, Jesus probably looked nothing like
Yeah,
we.
he probably looked, arguably looked like every Muslim in or an Egyptian, you
Yeah,
know, fucking that was the standard people back then. So
and it really shows that, because Jay is like, I don't buy it. It's because you're used to seeing this one image, and
this white man with long flowing brown hair and a really nice clean cut beard, just the most white man idea of Jesus.
it really just makes no sense when you think about it for 2 seconds.
Yeah, but you also gotta love, you also gotta love, especially New Testament, being written by people in the Middle East named Joseph and John and Michael. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
White
it's
man Luke, white man shit. All how are these dudes in the Middle East?
how did this conspire?
Yeah. Are you like the
Look,
first man with the name Michael? Were you from the Middle East? What's going on here? But what I do like is that he's throwing out basically he's talking about some apocrypha shit. And he goes into that a little bit because there are tons of books that were cut out of the Bible because the churches were like, oh, this is irrelevant. Or I mean, some of the books that were left out of the Bible are incredibly interesting and incredibly. They fill in a lot of gaps, explain more things, and some of them get incredibly silly. And you can actually understand why they left that one, those couple out. But
isn't there one, like Jesus kills a kid or something, and they cut that out because like it really just was like dark for no reason?
well, there's also stories of Jesus, learning his powers, where he kills a little bird, brings it back to life, kills it again, brings it back to life.
He's just he's just this fucking mind, bro.
But then there's also, some of those you can be like, yeah, it's a little whatever. But the books that were taken out that really matter, like the Book of Mary Magdalene or the Book of Judas, the Gospel of Judas, certain ones like that the Book of Enoch, for God's sakes. Yeah, there's just tons of apocrypha that is out there that sort of help fill in the gaps on some things, and I like the fact that they kind of pay homage to that in here.
Yeah, and the point I want to make is like it is so easy. Like once you've put your faith into essentially this image, not even like actually faith in the ideas. Like that's kind of what organized religion sort of becomes. Is you just kind of become acquainted with this image of what this is, and for some reason, for people, it's just really hard to shake that core like default interpretation for some reason, and I think it's because you put it at such like larger than life standard.
You know what's even funnier is the fact that in many ways having pictures of Jesus in your house or Jesus on a cross and stuff in many ways is breaking that worship no false idols.
In the sense, yeah, because this is always something that confused me when I was taking Sunday school classes is that they always say, well, Jesus is the Son of God, but then there will be other times where they're like, Jesus is God. Because being the Son of God technically makes you God, but then, like, to a little kid, you're just like, well, then what is it then?
Yeah. Jesus technically, in a way, was like what would you call it? The mediator.
Yeah, the closest representation we have to God.
When in all reality, he was a cult leader. And it's all fun and games till you claim till you claim you're the son of God, and then things get dangerous, and you start drinking Kool-Aid and shit. But I mean, fucking, that's a big reason he was fucking crucified, because to them that to the Romans and everybody, well, that it was blasphemy to say something like that, because it was like, how can God have a son? How can there be an immaculate birth? But yeah, back to the worshiping false idols is, it tells you, basically all these Christians, or before it was called Christians, like it wasn't Christianity until long after Jesus was dead. But these motherfuckers were killing anybody who had their little shrines that they worshipped. And but now, because of the New Testament, as long as it's Jesus, we can have an idol in the house. When you look at, Jewish people who believe Jesus was just a man and was not divine, they're not gonna have crucifixes in their house, because to them, that is that false idol shit. That's that golden calf shit.
Literal golden calf shit, as we see later.
Yeah.
With
Movie the golden calf. Damn, so that shit happens right here? Oh my god.
Yeah. It kind of leads from one to the other, because this was Loki's plan. Bartleby kind of puts a detour so Loki can kind of just have his moment. But even then, Bartleby still kind of kills his vibe, because they're constantly bickering throughout the scene. They kind of give the impression that, like, they're kind of winging it.
Oh, yeah.
But it might be... It's really hard to say. In a movie full of so many great sequences, it's hard to say which is, like, your exact favorite moment, but this has always been a standout. The Onion Man. The Onion Voodoo Doll.
Oh, yeah. And before that, though, is when we get Jay and Silent Bob at the strip club, and we meet Serendipity, played by Salma Hayek.
Yes, that's right. And this is also where we get a cameo. It's not Hooper from Chasing Amy, but it's the same actor.
Yeah.
In the gang.
And,
so that's a nice addition. And I noticed it today. I'm like, it's not the only Kevin Smith movie without her, but no Joey Lauren Adams this time around.
Yeah.
Not even a cameo.
So they're at the strip club so Jay can prove to Bob that he ain't gay, because they said because Rufus says when you were 5 years old you let a little boy pee in your hand. And
that boy's name is Brian Johnson.
Yeah, and then he died of leukemia. And fucking Jay's like, well, tell me something about me. And he's like, you masturbate more than anyone in the world. He's like, oh, everybody knows that. Tell me something we don't know. He's like, when you do, you think about guys. And I love his line. He's like, dude, not all the time.
Yeah, it's not even like he's denying it. He's just like, not 100%, bro.
Not all the time. But yeah, so they're at the bar, and you got these gang members, and you're just seeing Selma Hayek dancing around, and wouldn't you know it, this is the second movie where she's basically up on stage stripping.
Basically, it's like you saw from Dusk Till Dawn, and he's like, I can do that? Alright, let's get Selma Hayek.
And so the next scene is the scene we were just talking about. Probably one of the most iconic scenes in the movie. One of the most iconic scenes. But on that note, let me smoke a cigarette, and we'll get back to you guys. Alright, we are back. from the break.
I like this. What I like about this podcast so far is it's basically becoming how much can we drink and still effectively explain the plot of Dogma.
Yeah, I'm on my third beer now.
I'm on my third glass of wine.
Right on. Fucking, I am drinking a Terrapin Up High IPA. This is the second one of these I've had. And a minute ago, my first one was a Wild Range IPA.
Fucking sweet.
Fuck.
I've been just finishing off some of the quarantine rations. I have some sweet rosé and some sangria. So
Right on. Sangria is the shit.
oh yeah, put some fruit in there, and you get it going. This is the basement after dark.
The basement. Yeah, because I like to drink when, we do our podcasts or our reviews, because it's sort of, it adds for some stupid entertainment, because in some of our videos and podcasts, I'll get just too damn wasted by the end of it. And, when I'm doing a podcast with you and John, we're normally doing them early in the morning, and I'm not a morning drinker yet.
Yeah, but we usually go about this pretty sober, aside from the occasional pre-podcast toke on my end. But I could probably name the podcasts I was drinking on. I remember 2016 we did Ghostbusters 2016 we did a little bit later in the day. I remember I was drinking on that one.
Yeah, you need a drink when we talk about motherfucking Ghostbusters 2016.
Jesus Christ. And I remember having a good time with the Bill and Ted ones because we did those in the afternoon. And was that around spring or summer? It was when the weather was getting warmer, so I was able to sit back and drink a couple of beers while we were recording.
True that. So, we are here on what is probably one of the most iconic scenes. Well, it is one of the most iconic scenes in the movie. When they go to the movie's headquarters, you've got this board meeting. All these assholes.
The uppity assholes of the movies industry. And what really took me by surprise with this scene, because I don't know how long it's been since I last saw Dogma. It's probably been over, maybe 2 years. And with all the shit that's been going on nowadays, this scene just holds such a new relevance because we see these people in positions of power getting exposed every day now.
Yeah.
So I just felt like this scene had so much more. It always was a powerful scene, and it always was a scene that I just loved the flow of. That it starts off kind of slow, revealing everybody's sins, and that just turns into I don't know, rapid fire.
Yeah. And one thing to note real quick is when Bartleby and Loki are sitting down and he's carving the voodoo doll out of the onion, he accidentally carves the head off. He knocks the head off of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn, I never noticed that. So he's just sitting there carving it and it just falls off?
Yeah, it just falls off right before they get up.
And I love how they were sitting there the whole time, and it's only until a couple of minutes in they realized they were there.
Yeah.
And I just love how much of a dick Loki is. You could tell that Bartleby is doing this more as a job, whereas Loki is doing this because he thinks it's fun.
Yeah, he just wants to spread some blood. While fucking
he's able to.
Yeah, while Bartleby he wants to fucking tell the people why they're being judged. He wants the people to know what they did wrong. before they're handed the judgment sword, while Loki just wants to straight up fucking murder some people.
Yeah.
And have fun with it. He wants to toy with them.
I love Matt Damon in this movie. I've met people like Loki, which is weird to say because it's like Loki's supposed to be like this otherworldly figure, but I've met dudes who just come off this way, who just love to fuck with people. And it just kind of radiates off the screen. I love at the end of the scene, I don't believe in voodoo.
Yeah. Just fucking with the dude, like really getting the guy believing that, oh man, this voodoo doll might work.
He loves to string you in one direction and then just flip it. So what happens is they start going over the entire Movies franchise that he's had, like...
Yeah, Movies is like fucking... It is McDonald's, Burger
Disney.
King, yeah, exactly, and Disney. It's like everything that is...
corporate.
Yeah, just corporately wrong with children's entertainment. And yeah, so he's going over all of the sins of the people. Dude had sex with his wife's best friend.
You paid somebody at the office party to have sex with his wife so he could break up with her guilt 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Really scummy shit. And then there's the one that eventually you start getting into like some fucking Epstein shit. Like, oh, you went on the company plane to go to Thailand to have sex with an 11-year-old boy.
With an 11-year-old boy.
Then there's the one that you don't even hear.
Yeah.
And watching it again today, it's still to this day, I'm like, what the fuck did this guy do?
Yeah, obviously this guy fucked his son.
Yeah, but like not even that, because they can't even say that. They like, you feel like they would just say that out loud, like, oh, this guy fucked his son. Like, this guy had to do some real fucking freaky deaky, like, alien shit to his son.
Yeah, seriously.
Some real, like, Texas chainsaw, like, something. Like, I don't even know, but it is one of the few horrific moments in a Kevin Smith movie where it really, like, leads your mind down those dark places. Maybe he sewed his son into a walrus suit. Who knows?
Like, it is fucked. He's like, you're his father, you sick fuck. It even gets the man fucking crying. But I like how the lady he's like, you on the other hand are innocent. She's the only one. But what's crazy is, this bitch is gonna be traumatized the moment she fucking leaves this room.
And I love that because at the beginning of the speech, I just love how human these characters are, because it's like at the beginning of the speech, they're like, I don't think there's one decent human being in this office. And then he gets to the end of the road. He's just like, wait a second. No, you're good.
But you didn't, you forgot to say God bless you when I sneezed.
You're getting off light. So he fucks with them for a little bit, and then you think he's just gonna leave.
And he comes back with the voodoo doll. I love this shit. Fucking.
But I think he even lives.
He just starts waving his hand over it. Just building up a lot of tension. The guy's like, oh man, what's he about to do? Is this some real shit? Is voodoo real? Oh my god. And then he smashes it and nothing happens. Like, but the dude cowers, like, fucking, oh man. But yeah, come on man, I don't believe in voodoo. But yeah. So he leaves, and then you got this moment where everybody's like, shit, well, we all know.
Now what do we do?
Yeah, we all know things about each other, but nope, never mind. And then boom! I love this scene though, this shot where the doors close, you've got the movie mouth, and then boom, blood splatter on the movie mouth.
Don't run, pigs!
Yeah,
pigs,
but I like he says, but I do believe in this.
Yeah.
And fucking Ben Affleck is sitting in the damn lobby just like making fun of it.
Well, yeah, because right off the bat, like, Bartleby lives just to harsh Loki's vibe. Like, Loki has, like, this theatrical thing to him where he likes to just, like, set up these scenarios, and then Bartleby just comes in and gets right to the point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's just sitting out there reading the magazine, and that leaves Loki to fuck with the girl for a little bit. And even as he's leaving the office, he's still just like, "You're so lucky."
But yeah, so then it cuts back to the fucking bar. And,
This is where we're introduced to Serendipity.
Yeah. So who quit her job as being a muse.
And yeah, she can inspire everybody, but then the moment she becomes her own being, she gets writer's block.
Yeah.
And really like that, right from the get-go, they established that God has a sense of humor, because everybody who has been religious in their life, or even has a faint, like, belief in God, I think we can all agree that just because of the way life is, like, you almost have to assume God has a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And right from the get-go, we didn't even talk about, like, the opening text of the movie where, because of course they had to put a disclaimer on this movie because of all the controversy it was stewing, and that's really the whole point of the movie is, to believe what you want to believe, but also accept the comedic timing of life, you know?
Yeah.
That there's always going to be a spin to your disadvantage in a way, because that's what the human experience is. You're going to have that one thing that you need to struggle with. Otherwise, you'll just have absolute power.
Yeah, so they're at the bar, they're explaining who Serendipity is, and this man is taking a shit. And then the toilet starts overflowing.
And it's so fucking gross, man.
It's so good. It is so good looking.
Only Kevin Smith could pull off a scene where you're going over the gender roles of the Bible to the toilet.
Oh my god.
So it's like, on the one hand, it really just sums up Kevin Smith's brain in a nutshell. It's like really in-depth deconstruction of important thing and shit humor.
Yeah.
And it's really weird that today of all days, I don't know if you're aware of Jeremy Johns on YouTube. He's a pretty basic movie reviewer. He's been around for a while. He's one of those dudes who just talks about a movie on a green screen, pretty quick reviews. But he actually uploaded a review of Dogma today, and that really, it just stuck out to me. I'm like, huh. I guess more than, it's just that time of year, I guess. I guess Serendipity is hitting us all to want to watch Dogma.
Yeah, and you know what? The CGI, the little bit of CGI they use for the shit demon actually doesn't look bad. I mean,
not awful. It's not great, but it's also, for the time and for a Kevin Smith movie.
Yeah.
And even the flying effects later when they're in front of the church, because it's a CG Ben Affleck flying around on his wings, it does look pretty good.
Yeah, for a movie from '99, back when this was some of the most expensive shit, that's where the whole budget went. Doesn't look bad, because I can look at movies from 2 years ago that that look like shit today.
Fucking thing, 2011.
Yeah. But yeah, now Jay and Silent Bob are, is this the Bloods with the red bandanas?
Yeah, they made us part of the gang.
Yeah. And then the Golgotha comes.
Now, this is something that was really weird, my first viewing of it, because when I was younger and getting into Kevin Smith movies, I was slowly but surely like buying every DVD I could find of the original Views universe. And for a while, my mom had been hyping up Dogma. She always said that this one was her favorite. And after watching it many times, I do see why. I could see like how this movie appealed to her. But I remember when I first watched this movie and I saw this scene, of all things, I went up to my mom after viewing it and was like, "This was the movie that was your favorite, the one with the shit demon?" Because it's so out of like touch of what I would assume like my parents would like, you know?
Yeah. But I love it when the Golgothan motherfucking beats the shit out of the gang. You don't see a single shot of it. You just see reactions from everybody else. And they're looking up and down and sideways, but then it cuts and like the gang is just all laying there and they're all just covered in shit.
It really is a lesson in low-budget filmmaking because he still manages to make like a tense action scene where, if you really think about it, no action really happens. Like Salma Hayek starts trying to make a Molotov, but like before she can even throw it, like Bob has already taken out the demon.
Yeah, with his little deodorant spray or whatever, Lysol spray he's got.
And we also have to give credit to Kevin Smith that, like, it's a shit joke that doesn't feel lowbrow. You know,
it's a shit joke that is threatening.
Yes, and it almost is like a weird foreshadowing to, like, the kind of films he would get into later in his career, like Tuscan Yoga Hosers, because, like, say what you will about those movies, like, the main, like, thing about those movies is the special effects pieces and these weird, unlikely monsters that he can create, like fucking shit demons.
Yeah, definitely.
Rich people and little bratwurst men.
Yeah, when you first get the first shot of Justin Long as the walrus, that's one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Man, we'll have to talk about, like, Tusk on a separate occasion, like, divorced from the Viewers universe.
Yeah.
Even though it technically is a part of the Viewers universe now, it wasn't originally intended.
Yeah, he retroactively added it.
Retconned it. I mean, I always wished it was, but, you know.
Yeah, but its impact on the overall main part of the series is very little.
It really has, like, no effect on it. The only thing is that if he eventually does make Moose Jaws, he wants Jay and Silent Bob to be in it.
Yeah.
They're going to be, like, the replacement of Quint. The both of them just sum up, like, what Quint's role in Jaws was.
Yeah.
So does it mean that we're going to have to see, like, is that going to be the death of Jay and Silent Bob?
Damn, so yeah, now we got Bartleby and Loki at a train station, and they can't get on the train, but then Azrael flags them down and says, you know, you guys, you got to fucking prove God wrong, because it's going to destroy the world. All of existence will be gone. And he's telling them, you need to stop pissing people off. You need to stop fucking going around killing people.
And I really like this concept that they have both sides pissed off at them, and they're really just having every threat come at them from all angles. Because, like I mentioned before, they were going at it really recklessly because they wanted it to be their, like, last hurrah, if you will. And it's now turning into, like, this matter of, I don't want to say national security because, like, heaven is the nation, but, like, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, turned into, like, it's a situation now.
Yeah, heaven and hell's pissed off. Everyone's trying to find them. But Azrael wants them to finish their mission. Azrael wants there to be no...
I lied to them. I told them I was up for a routine possession.
Yeah. So it cuts to the train. And
this is where the two plot lines merge. And
yeah.
one other thing I wanted to mention about Jason Lee in this movie before we got to the train scene is this is the first time we've seen him play sort of a different character, because we've had now Brody and Banky, and even down to the names, like, it is pretty similar, but they're also pretty similar characters where they're the loudmouth comic book geek. And here, he's full-on antagonist.
Yeah.
And I don't really know, aside from another Kevin Smith movie, Clerks 2, where he's not even an antagonist, he's more just a dickish, like, one-scene character, like, what other movies have we seen him be necessarily a villain?
I really can't think of any.
And I think he pulls it off really well.
He has, for some reason, Jason Lee has always been similar to goddamn Bruce Campbell to me.
Huh, yeah, I could kind of get that from him.
Like this just cool fucking vibe. Like, he could be a villain, he could be a hero.
And you enjoy him either way.
Yeah.
Sort of keep the same personality, and it can work for both sides. And another thing I like just about his character design is he's kind of got that. I don't know if you've watched many like old cartoons from like the 30s, some real old Cuphead shit, where they usually have these depictions of the devil where like he's a really stylish, dressed in white, you know.
Those are some of my favorite versions of the devil. Is like the suited zoot suit kind of devil. He might have, like, his tooth might be like dice, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's got
like swinger devil, and I like that. I don't know if it was intentional in the costume design, but he really just gives off that vibe.
Yeah, with his tiny little horns.
So yeah, I love how he's just kind of like a friend from the other side for these two angels. That like angels and demons do kind of get along in certain circles.
Yeah, because, you know, all the demons, you know, they were all angels.
So at that one point, so like you
they
really
were all
get the
buddies.
sense that like they've known each other like back when maybe things were a little different.
Yeah, they all knew each other back before the war.
So what happens next? They get on the train.
They're on the train,
like,
and
merge.
You see Jay Silent Bob and Loki and Bartleby are sitting there chilling and talking, and she decides to go stretch her legs. She goes walking out, and she meets him. So now we have Jay Silent Bob smoking weed with Loki, and we have...
That's fun.
Yeah, that it really is. And you have Bethany, and yeah, this fucking looking like a homeless dude. Goddamn Chris Rock. But yeah, you have her and Ben Affleck talking on their basically talking religion and shit.
And this is where things really shift in the Bartleby-Loki relationship, because from here on out, this is where shit gets real for the two of them, because now there's a threat that Rufus is there. You know, they've pretty much just landed in the nest of the enemy, and we're starting to see now how extreme Bartleby is getting and how now Loki is having second thoughts. You know, he's actually getting along with Jay and Bob and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this is where Bethany is reaching closer to her breaking point, because, you know, they're kicking back a couple of drinks, and this is where she starts to, like, loosen up a little bit. But she's also, like, she's straight up losing her mind, because it's really giving her this moment to, like, really think about what she's saying and what she's experiencing and how ridiculous it might sound to like a normal human being.
Yeah.
And as far as she's concerned, Ben Affleck is just this normal dude who's just, you almost get a sense like they're going to kindle a romance because she's going on about what happened between her and her husband. So it's clear that, she's kind of taking a liking to Bartleby.
Yeah. Especially after she realizes that he's not gay, because she thought she assumed him and Loki were a couple at first.
You could say they're hetero life mates.
They damn sure are, because when you think about it, I bet you for the thousands and thousands of years they've been on Earth, they've probably never had any friends but each other.
Exactly. So they are ye old Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah. And that's why Loki decides to have second thoughts when he meets Jay and Bob, and he's having fun, but now the mission is serious on Bartleby's point. Rufus wakes up.
Whole mood changes.
Yeah.
Pretty much gets Bethany at not knife point, breaks the bottle and sticks it to her neck. And I love how she's now tipsy and she doesn't even quite understand what's going on until the moment the name is dropped.
Yeah.
I like this whole train sequence because he manages to do action and comedy at the same time really well. Like, the fight choreography isn't fucking Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or anything like that, but it's still really fast-paced and, a good change of... Like, it's a nice moment away from the dialogue, just to give us a little moment of suspense.
And you get a great, nice little reference to The Last Crusade.
Yes, I was about to mention that. Which even on its own, it's still just a great line, regardless if you realize it's a reference or not. And that's something that I love about Kevin Smith, is he manages to put the reference in so well that it just kind of becomes its own line again.
Yeah, where it's like, if you know, you know, but if you don't, it makes sense for the scene. Because they start fighting and Bob throws them each off the train. I like how he just waves. He just waves. And, there's that random dude sitting there that has apparently watched this entire fight. And Bob is just like, no ticket.
And he says it exactly the same way, Harrison. You know that Kevin Smith just had this on lock the entire time. He's like, I'm going to say it exactly the way Harrison did.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And it's just a perfect cap to the scene. What happened next, though? For some reason, I just watched the movie this morning, and it's because it's so much, in a different way than Chasing Amy, though. Chasing Amy is it's a lot in terms of its themes, whereas Dogma is, packed in terms of not only its themes, but also just its scene. What I want to mention before is, I don't know the runtime of every Kevin Smith movie, but for some reason this definitely felt like the longest.
Next is... I think this is the longest movie. But next is where Bartleby and Loki are in a little parking garage, and Loki's having his second thoughts, and Bartleby is pissed off because he was so close to killing the lady that's supposed to kill them. And I like this a lot when Loki is like, you're fucking reminding me of Morningstar, man. You're fucking sounding like Lucifer.
It's so powerful because this whole time Loki's been the more comedic relief character, and this is when it hits him, alright, we're in the shit now, the consequences are real, This
Yeah.
isn't just going to be some slap on the wrist. Like, we're dealing with... He said it himself. He's like, you're not talking about going home. You're talking about war against God, and I'm not fucking with that.
Yeah, because he saw what happened originally. You know, they were a part of that shit.
Exactly. And this is the moment Bartleby becomes my favorite Ben Affleck role. Because he puts so much emotion and energy into this rant that he goes on. Like, it doesn't feel like acting. It feels like here's a guy who's genuinely fucking pissed about his own creator favoring mortals over, like, one of the highest choir of angels.
Yeah, because angels are meant to serve, whereas humans can do whatever the fuck they want. And
it's
humans...
kind of like a babysitter getting really mad at like a bunch of children in a way. He kind of just looks at humanity as that. People just are ungrateful little shits at this point. Because he even says it. He's like, he gives them free will, and people don't even believe that he exists. I also want to mention, you could probably take a shot every time he says, we're going home in this movie.
Yeah. And, you know, one thing I like about this scene is the fact that up until now, like we've said, Ben Affleck's been there to just, you know, be basically the guy that brings Loki back down when Loki gets too out of hand. And Loki has been enjoying the fact that I'm shedding blood, I'm having fun, you know. But now that Loki would do that shit because he always knew that he had basically his rock. Ben Affleck is his rock. But now that he is witnessing Ben Affleck going fucking crazy and getting real on this shit, Loki's starting to freak the fuck out, and he's like, damn, man, you know, I didn't know that I was sounding this crazy until I saw you get this crazy.
Exactly. He really was unaware of his own... He was getting a little ahead of himself, but he always knew, once you sort of lock yourself into this relationship, especially, you know, with these people who have been around for millennium, you know this is how it's always been. And he's never seen Bartleby act like this.
Yeah, because Bartleby, you know, he was a watcher. You know, he's not necessarily a death-dealing angel, whereas Loki is used to shedding blood, and so now he's witnessing an angel that basically his job isn't to shed blood, ultimately wanting to shed blood. And so after that, you get this another really good scene where they're all at the little fire, and
Jay smoking the J.
Yeah, they're talking about the missing years of Jesus because they find out that you know, she is the last Zion. She is a part of the Jesus bloodline. And I'm not gonna lie, I do wish that she wasn't like his niece. I wish that he was like the granddaughter, and they went hardcore on the Jesus and Mary Magdalene bloodline idea, but I'll take this any way it goes.
I really feel like, you know, you definitely could take it that way, especially nowadays you probably could, but all the flack the movie was probably getting, like, I think Kevin Smith was like, that's probably what he was getting at, but he wanted to make it at least a little lighter, so he doesn't add any more shit.
Because, the world wasn't ready for
the idea of that, even though technically speaking, the world already got it with Last Temptation, but that was another movie that got protested to shit.
Yeah, anytime you make a movie about Jesus, whether it is... Well, it doesn't matter how you portray it. People are going to protest, no matter what.
That's true, but what's weird is growing up in Sunday school, like, even Passion of the Christ was protested, but what's weird is, as time went on, when I was in Sunday school, that movie got mad praise, and I didn't get it. I was like, here's a movie that you're praising.
Because you're just watching him get beat for 3 hours.
And we were watching, and I'm like, why am I being shown, like, just these horrible acts of, like, I know this is what happened. It doesn't make me feel any closer to him.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, watch something like Last Temptation, and on paper, yeah, I guess this stuff does sound pretty, I guess, blasphemous. We're going to show depictions of Jesus having sex with Mary Magdalene and having this life that he could never have, but the reason why shit like that doesn't come off as disrespectful as, in my eyes, something like Passion of the Christ is because it's showing Jesus on a respectful human level. You know what I mean? He brings it down to something. Like, you finally feel like you could see the world through his eyes because he's not so perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people get lost in his divinity and forget about his humanity.
And that's the whole reason why he was worth celebrating to begin with, is because he was just a guy.
Yeah. He was really just there because before Jesus came, it was still all fear God, fire and brimstone. But he just came around because it was at a point, all right, let's say this is true history. It was at a point where you could basically be thrown in jail for cleaning up a mess on Sunday. You know what I mean? It was like, keep the Sabbath holy because God said so. And to the point where it was like, it's all law is God's law. So like, you're going to get stoned. If like, let's say you spill your drink and clean it up, your ass is getting stoned. And
that's also something they were tapping into in the scene on the bus. Bartleby even mentions it, like how things are changing. He's like, I remember when eating meat on a Friday was a hell-worthy sin.
Yeah. And Jesus came around to say, y'all need to chill the fuck out with that. Like, you can clean up a spill. That isn't technically work on a Sunday. You know what I mean? As an example, Jesus was there to like we said a minute ago, he was the mediator. He was like, hey, you guys are getting too radical on this shit, basically. You're getting way too fucking radical. You need to tone it the fuck down. And just be nice to each other, man. Yeah.
And it's so funny how time misconstrued that.
Yeah.
Because he really was just like the you guys need to chill the fuck out kind of guy. And then later on, the term Jesus freak exists for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. He was the original hippie, man.
Yeah, really was. I always liked a joke I always had in my head was like, was he really the son of God, or was he the world's first party magician? When they say he turned water into wine, does that mean he really turned water into wine, or were they just having a really shitty party and he brought the booze over?
Seriously.
But again, that's the kind of shit I find interesting, is knowing Jesus as the person first, the Son of God second.
Yeah.
And this is where, Bethany finally snaps.
Yeah, she trips out.
This blasé attitude about the whole thing. You could tell she's reached just kind of that dent in her life, kind of a crisis of faith, and now it's just reached that point where she can't just hide behind sarcasm or, snarkiness. Like, it's finally like...
They roughly have 12 hours.
And I love this scene because we get the return of the voice of God, and this monologue he goes on about. It is almost very Last Temptation, where he goes on about, I had to tell Jesus what was going to happen to him as a boy. And, I would take it back if I had the choice to, but it wasn't my decision.
Yeah.
And it's not your decision either. And that's one of the weird sort of dramatic things about the Bible I almost kind of like, is that you get these unlikely people to go through these journeys just because. Just because out of nowhere God decides it. When told right, like, these trials could be something that is very human. When she's asking these kind of questions, you know what it reminded me of the most?
What's that?
It reminded me of one of the lyrics Geddy Lee had on one of the Rush albums, actually. You remember from Roll the Bones when he says, "Why does it happen? Because it happens."
Yeah.
Roll the Bones. That's what I thought of. That they're... Why, Bethany? Just cuz. Because you just happen to be the last Zion. And now this is your purpose. It's just something so fascinating to me, you know, because it's really hard to explain, because I really don't think too deep about these things on a daily basis, but when these things hit, they really fucking hit.
Yeah.
And this scene is like, the last big moment we have before we reach the climax. This is where Bethany's character finally becomes realized, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That she starts to really understand that though it may not all make sense, God does have a plan.
Yeah, when she was bitching about the fact that her mom would always use that as basically as an excuse.
Yeah, it comes back, and it finally dawns on her that it's like, well, maybe he does have a plan, and just because I necessarily don't understand it doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense. It's that it's not my place to really... It's not her place to understand it. It's just how things gotta be.
And you know what, though? The phrase "God has a plan" to me has always just been a Christian way of saying shit happens.
It is. It really is. And that's essentially just... I mean, it's not the main lesson of this movie, but it is certainly something that is noteworthy, as it is kind of a lesson in shit happens, and you can't let that kind of stuff ruin your life, or ruin, like, what your ideas are, because she has that speech with the Metatron, like, when I couldn't bear children, where was God?
Yeah,
when my husband left me, where was God? It just doesn't work like that, you know?
Definitely. So after all of that, even at the Expedition Dump restaurant, that's what we're calling it now. Whenever they're with the Metatron, man, for some reason...
Transports them to an eatery and lays it on the line.
Yeah. But yeah, so they go see motherfucking George Carlin, and they're asking him to call off the rededication ceremony. But nah, he's got to do this, and I like it. He's a golf playing, money hoarding, smoking priest, smoking a cigarette in his office. And he's got comic booky kind of shit in his office, like.
Does. I noticed that. Like, he's really kind of... It's more of a job, less than, like, a
way of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is like, I'm getting paid for this, man. This is my job.
Because they even mention it, they're like, don't you wish you had the same numbers as the tobacco industry? It's like, oh, we can only hope, or something like that. It's really all about the numbers and getting more people... Almost like the movie industry, getting more asses in the seats.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even really concern himself on if they believe in it or not.
It's all about that image. It's all about that dollar. You know, he's happy because he doesn't have to pay taxes.
Yeah, and it's a perfect casting choice on Kevin Smith's part, because not only is it just ironic to have George Carlin as a priest, but it almost is kind of taking already the mentality of a lot of his stand-up and just, like, adapting it further.
And you know what? Alright, so the scene next is when they go to another bar. And
yeah, it's a little strange.
yeah, and here's my thing, man. This movie, it doesn't have a whole lot in colors. It's all the colors in this movie are very drab. Like, this bar almost looks completely identical to the bar they were at 15 minutes ago.
If anything, it's just smaller now.
Exactly. The colors, all the colors in this movie are very drab, very dirty, and fucking, you know, it's mostly when they're outside. A lot of the time, it's nighttime. There's just not a lot of popping colors, which kind of fit the sort of end of the world kind of depressing feel.
Definitely.
But I do like his holy bartender joke.
Yeah, that one always stuck out to me because, like, it's so bad.
Yeah.
Like, just gotta love it because Salma Hayek's already done with it. She's seen this a million times before, but you know he just wants to do it so badly.
Yeah, because you find out he was a former muse.
Yeah. Which is very fascinating to think about this stuff. I like the idea that he introduced, like, basically concepts as characters. It's like you have your angels, you have your demons, you have God, you have the devil, you have all the shit, but you also just have basic human ideas in physical form.
Yeah, just inspiration in physical form. One's a demon and one's a stripper. And
Fucking demon.
yeah, I'm a fucking demon. They're stuck in the bar. They're trying to hold him there to make sure that Barnaby and Loki get through the arch. And you gotta love George Carlin, man. No other priest dresses up like the Pope.
Yeah.
But fucking George Carlin, man, goddammit,
Swinging.
he's all about that shit. And he's a cardinal, too. Like, he's not even, like, that important.
It just he just wants that publicity, man.
Exactly.
It means that much to him, and so
I like the way he breaks the fucking cop's neck. Like, I don't know what it is about the way the flow of that neck break is, but that's like one of the coolest neck breaks in a movie, where like he gets him on the forehead, like flips the hat off, and then turns the head. I don't know, it's pretty rad.
and it happens just so suddenly too. Like, I think that's what really does it. I think the cop was one of Kev's childhood friends, and it kind of shows because it's not one of the best line reads in the movie. But it is a great moment where they finally show up, because the cardinal told them to fuck off because he wants, the ceremony to go off without a hitch. And it just opens things up for Bartleby and Loki. They have their big moments where, they start wreaking some havoc.
Yeah, because I like too, man. They fucking, once they rip off their clothes, angel armor. So you wonder, like, they can't take that armor off. So they're just always, for eternity, putting clothing over it to hide the fact that they are fallen angels.
Must get really hot in the summers.
Yeah, seriously. Like, they probably can't take the armor off. They gotta hide their wings. Another thing I do wish that they could have thrown in this movie is some Nephilim. I think they could have thrown some of that lore in there. But I'm not gonna lie. The amount of
So jam-packed. Like, there's definitely a lot more stuff they could have thrown in, but it's
the amount of stuff they did is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So I can't really complain too much. But yeah, wow! After they break the dude's neck, man, it's another long expedition dump, but it's entertaining because Jason Lee, man, the dude can hold a scene. Basically giving out his Bond villain spiel, like they even reference James Bond, and he's walking back and forth talking about how shitty it is in hell, and he wants it all to fucking go away. Because God is infallible, and if you prove God wrong, all of existence is yeah.
And so they're caught in this tight situation in the bar, and yet again, Silent Bob quickly just diffuses the situation through some loophole. This movie's got a lot of loopholes.
Yeah, but it makes sense. It makes sense.
The left driver.
Because they, for some reason, stole the priest's golf club.
Well, yeah, because that was Jay, because he thinks that will get Bethany to want to fuck him.
It's like she mentions, he is one of those full of himself priests. He would bless his clubs to win at golf, and so when she tells him, I like that too. When it's like, go ahead, hit me. You got a free shot. Go ahead and hit me. Like, he is so fucking, yeah, dude, I'm a fucking demon.
So sure that he's won at this point, because we pretty much, at this point in the movie, are on the brink of apocalypse. They're, as they're in that bar, Loki's getting drunk, and Bartleby is just picking people up and dropping them.
Yeah, because he even turns on the news now, and you've got, is it Grant Hicks?
Yeah.
And Grant Hicks is all bleeding and shit, and I like how real that footage looks. Like, the camera they used was cheap to film all that shit.
I don't even remember this, because doesn't, the TV kind of cut to static or something?
Yeah, in and out of static, and...
Because it's meant to imply that Grant Hicks, dies, but then later on, I guess he didn't, because he lives another day in Reboot. Yeah,
where does he show up in Reboot?
When Justice is introduced, because they're both on the news together, and she's the co-host of Grant Hicks.
Yeah, but it makes sense because God basically
undid everything at the end.
Yeah, so everybody who was picked up and dropped out of the sky, everybody who died right there.
That is true. It's all reversed.
Yeah.
You can argue.
So Grant Hicks lives to see another day, just like you said. Yeah, I like that too, man. How he fucking licks his finger and rubs his finger down his shirt to split it open, and then you see a little smoke effect.
It's really fun, but it's also kind of sad to see him go.
Yeah, you're like, damn, no.
Because he goes out in such a bitch way, too, but it's also so fitting of his character.
Yeah.
Because he really is kind of... you do get the sense that he's kind of a small potatoes kind of demon that wants that bigger sort of fame to him, I guess. He likes to wear the fact that he's a demon, proudly, but he's really just kind of nothing.
Yeah, he's low on the totem pole.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why his 3 minions are so shitty.
If this was Ash vs. Evil Dead, he'd be sitting right next to Elagos.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just commanding around a bunch of kids, and so he gets killed off. And I do like the chest effect when his chest sort of caves in.
Yeah.
Like this black, like it's not necessarily blood, it's just like this black goop.
Yeah, this nothingness.
Almost reminiscent of the Thing, but not to the same extent. Just like similar in the fact that it's like a chest opening up.
And you gotta love Bob just staring at the goo on the driver. Like, what the fuck is this, man?
Like, what did I even do?
But, so now we're at the final point of the movie. Let me smoke one more cig. Okay. We're back, and we're at the ending of the movie. Basically, and I like this too, man. Just the massive bit of destruction in this one spot. You got people impaled on the fence. You've got missing heads. You've got dead bodies everywhere. Dead bodies everywhere.
It's able to convey like massive destruction, like on a low scale.
Yeah, because it's obviously a small set. But the amount of destruction in this small part shows the amount of destruction that would ultimately be worldwide.
And it's the darkest a Kevin Smith movie probably has gone in terms of like a body count, you know?
Yeah, seriously.
It's the most dour one of his films has ever gotten.
Yeah, and then you gotta love Rufus carrying a goddamn submachine gun. So we catch Loki. He's already cut off his wings. He's mortal now. He's getting drunk because he can.
Much given up. And I love that when they're trying to like figure out what's going on, like he's just no help. You know, Bartleby, he's just kind of lost his mind.
Yeah. And he's like, whoops, take a step back. Boom, dropping motherfuckers out of the sky.
If only they'd let us jerk off.
Yeah, and so she's like pushing on goddamn Loki. But this is the point when you're like, yeah, Loki's over it, man. He's like, I didn't want all this crazy shit. Bartleby just lost it.
So this is where Bartleby finally comes back down, and Jay doesn't. The whole time, Jay just isn't understanding that you can't shoot them.
Yeah.
You can't really do anything to them, like physical or violent, because you're really just going to give them what they want.
Well, what the thing is they still got to walk through the arch.
Yeah.
So at this point, it doesn't matter if they kill Loki, but they do realize that. She asked him, "You walk through the archway yet?" And he says no. So it's like, okay, all hope isn't lost yet. But I like this, the Ben Affleck descending with his wings. Yeah, I mean, that's some decent looking CGI, man.
It's really good special effects, and they cut to a little bit of wire work as well. And seeing Ben Affleck with angel wings fall down from the heavens, covered in blood, surrounded by destruction, it really just hit me like how weird this movie really is.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there watching it, going, it really is an accomplishment how this works. Because it's such an odd fucking premise.
It damn sure is.
Like when you have someone try to explain Dogma to you, it must sound so fucking bad.
Just bizarre.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just such a bizarre premise that, like, it couldn't possibly work. And then it does.
And then you gotta love too that, like, all right, he's got all these moments. This is standard villain shit. All these moments to kill these motherfuckers, but instead he just pushes them.
Well, that was another thing I was going to mention too. And they also had all this time to walk through the arch. They really could have just gotten what they wanted if they didn't just revel. Bartleby, in this case, just revel in all the pent-up aggression coming out.
Yeah.
You know, if he was able to control himself a little better, they could have actually gotten away with it. But, you know, this release of so much just pent-up frustration, especially on Bartleby's part, it just, you know, it what's the word I'm looking for? It strayed them away from their initial goal.
Yeah, now fucking Loki's trying to stop Ben Affleck. It's Affleck, but I keep saying Affleck. Affleck.
Sometimes I have a tendency to put a T at the end for no reason. I'll just be like Ben Affleck.
Right.
So they finally get to the part where God is revealed.
Yeah, so he kills Loki.
Because, he kills Loki after Jay gets rid of his wings. Because Jay fucking shoots his wings to shit, trying to impress Bethany. Because they've reached that point, that foreshadowing moment where the world's gonna end in 5 seconds. You said you'd fuck us.
Yeah, like he runs Bethany behind these, basically, I call it roadie gear. These big old fucking boxes that, you know, like drums and amps and guitars get shipped in. Sound equipment gets shipped in. Just roadie gear. And he's taking off his fucking pants and shit. And he's like, you say the world's gonna end? You said you fucked me. That shit's so funny during this serious situation. And this is when he brings up John Doe Jersey. And she comes up with the idea, oh shit, yeah, they did say that God loves skee-ball and likes to go into a human form and come down here once a month. John Doe Jersey.
In the restaurant scene. So it all comes back to the beginning of the movie, and what's very fascinating is what the solution, if I remember correctly, the solution of the problem is taking him off the life support.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is something that the church itself was actually fighting against.
Yeah, the church didn't want to take him off life support. And, the solution was taking him off life support. And so before that, like, they're still trying to fight. They're like, hey, Bob, come with me. We're going to go get John Doe Jersey. But I like this little zoom out when Jay's fucking pants are down. You got all these people running out of the hospital, and it's like, oh, it's the apocalypse. Please exit in an orderly fashion. But you got motherfuckers just running out of there. Everybody's just getting their ass beat. You know, he's just throwing them around, man. He could break her neck right now. But yeah, I'm just gonna throw you. Just normal villain shit.
Plot armor is what we like to call it.
Yeah, there you go, plot armor, exactly. But yeah, he's like, motherfucking, what does he say, suck a duck?
Yeah.
And he gets down, boom, I like this. He gets his wings just shot off in slow motion. And,
why does, like, the gory effect of, like, the wings being shot, there's many moments with the special effects in this movie that remind me of, like, something out of a trauma film.
Yeah, very similar. But I like it, dude. When his wings are gone, I like how the little wing nubs are still moving.
Yeah.
And bleeding. And it's like, that's some cool shit. Like we mentioned earlier that, you know, the wings have a life of their own. You know, they're not just there standing around. You know, like, yeah, it's like a little chicken wing fucking just moving around, fucking bleeding.
So he just did Bartleby the favor, so he walks up to the church and out walks.
Nah, it's not here. It's not there yet. We're not there yet.
Yeah, man, we aren't.
Cause now we're at the hospital, and she's like, "I hope you're the skee ball type." Takes him off life support.
Lights just shoot out of his chest.
Yeah, and motherfucking boom! It's like lightning, and this is a weird shot. She gets hit by lightning, and then you just see this blood pouring out of her stomach.
Yeah, it is really strange. Makes sense when they explain it later, but at the moment, I remember it
Yeah.
me a lot the first time I saw it.
So now he runs to the church, and it's Metatron and Alanis Morissette.
And I love how this is it really makes you question now, because God can be whatever God wants to be.
Yeah, God could be whatever form it needs to be when it's interacting with whatever it needs to interact with.
So my question is it that she just happens to look like Alanis Morissette, or did God intentionally just want to look like Alanis Morissette?
For real.
I feel like, God was like, who's popular?
Yeah.
What I want to be.
And what's even funnier is, like, this is 99, like, Alanis Morissette is sadly not popular anymore at this point.
Exactly, but, like, God has just been removed from humanity for so long.
Yeah. It's like, you know what, God, if you'd have done this in 95, 96, boom, it would have made sense.
You would truly be God.
Yeah. She just dropped supposed former infatuation junkie. Nobody's digging Alanis Morissette at this point. Except for me. But yeah, so they all stop their ears, and she just opens her mouth, man. And you get a cool ass exploding head and exploding chest shot. But I like that, man. When Barnaby he sees her, man, he just starts crying because he realizes
now he's realized that
it's
there's
over.
no back.
Yeah, there's no going back. It's fucking, but it's also him finally being in the presence of God again for like the first time in what, a millennium?
So in a sense, he had come home.
Yeah.
Just not in the way that he intended.
Yeah.
And that's good enough for him, honestly. He's just happy that it's over.
Seriously. And so yeah, after he explodes, you gotta love Metatron pissed off that blood gets on his uniform or on his suit.
Metatron is the only person who could like wipe the blood off himself with God's clothes.
Yeah, like he's allowed to fucking talk to God that way.
It really just establishes that like the Metatron is like the closest thing to a friend God really has.
Yeah.
Because when he describes it earlier, like, what is God like? Everyone always talks about, oh, well, he's funny. But he also mentions, it's like, well, he's also very lonely.
Yeah, seriously.
And I don't really get why Alanis Morissette is acting like a child in this scene.
Yeah, it's very odd. It is very odd.
It's like I can almost see what Kevin Smith is going for, but I also can't quite put it into words. I'm like, is it because faith in and of itself could be kind of a fantastic... I guess you need kind of a childlike, open mind to like take in a lot of this stuff and not think too hard about it.
Yeah.
Because once again, going back to that why does it happen because it happens mentality, Bethany goes up to God and pretty much asks the question any of us would ask. What is the point of life?
And all you get is a whomp.
Whomp. And in a weird way, that's kind of exactly what it is. Why are we here? Because we're here.
Yeah, it doesn't matter why we're here. Just make the most of it.
Wop. That's why.
Yeah, so Bob comes back with a bleeding ass Bethany. And you gotta love the look on Alan Rickman's face. It's more like a, well, this is where we're at.
Yeah. Seen this before. Kevin Smith really manages to... I know he puts himself down as an actor. He's not the greatest actor in the world, but in terms of Silent Bob being a facial actor, he is able to sell the emotion of the scene. And I've always liked how, especially in this movie, Silent Bob is able to be part of the group and taken seriously without Jay.
Yeah.
Like, they don't treat Silent Bob, like, as an extension of Jay. Like, they kind of know he's on the level. So, God is able to heal Bethany.
Yeah, she took away all the destruction, heals Bethany, and then picks flowers and does handstands.
Like I said, it's like I get it, but I don't.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't get it. But here's my question: if God can look like Alanis Morissette, why is God coming down to Earth looking like a homeless white man?
I guess just because it's the most unlikely thing you would ever expect.
Yeah, I guess you couldn't look like Alanis Morissette and go play skee ball in New Jersey without people fucking with you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like rain on your wedding day.
She's just sitting there like, throws a fucking skee ball at their head. By the way, I don't...
Steps over Jay. Steps right on him.
Definition of ironic, I don't think that's actually ironic. But that's a rant for another day.
I've got one hand in my pocket and the other one's flipping a peace sign.
So we finally established that Bethany has her faith back, and she almost kind of cockily goes, "I know, I'm the last Zion." And then we get the reveal: "Oh, you were the last Zion." And miracle of miracles, she's pregnant.
And it's an immaculate birth. She's not a virgin, but
still, like, she's unable to... She had a vacant womb.
Yeah. But now she's got a baby in there from God knows who.
Gee, it's really nice that you went through this whole journey before this happened, because let's say you just woke up and you were pregnant with God's child. It's like, yeesh.
But even still, like, they're all getting ready to go, and you've got God and Metatron and Rufus getting ready to walk back in there. But even Serendipity's like, you know what, I've been on Earth too long. I'm just going to go back to being a vibe.
Because wouldn't you just want to be... I want to know what that existence is like, just being an intangible vibe.
Yeah, just a thing that gives people ideas.
I feel like that's kind of what Hunter S. Thompson must have felt like in his mind nearing the end. Just, he probably didn't even feel like a human, he's just an orb.
Yeah. But they're all saying their goodbyes.
Kind of kicks off on a happy note, because we leave it on the steps of the church as the camera pans up.
Yeah.
Like, there's just a couple of more lines from Jay and Silent Bob, you know. I think he makes a joke about how she almost fucked him, and then we kind of fade to credits, and if I'm not mistaken, Aren't they using an Alanis Morissette song for the end credits?
I think so. I think they are. Yeah.
I don't know the exact name of the song.
I can find that out real quick.
It makes sense that it's in the soundtrack, but it also kind of, I don't know why it just stands out to me. I think it's because the whole movie has kind of had this kind of religious Howard Shore, like, orchestral thing going for it. And then the end credits is just this really weird kind of pop experimental thing going on with Alanis Morissette and some sitars.
Yeah, that's when Alanis Morissette's music kind of got a little weird, and still good. Like, I mean,
You know, it's not a bad song. I just like, and it's not necessarily out of place either. It just kind of comes out of nowhere because you have the classic trope with most comedies is you have the credit sequence with the bloopers.
yeah,
And then it just cuts to that.
yeah. The Alanis Morissette song is called "Still."
Yeah. And I do like how in the end credits, there's still kind of like a homemade kind of feel to it because it doesn't say like edited by Kevin Smith and Scott Moser. It says the film's editors were Kevin Scott.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Now I got a question. The Brian Johnson, is that the same Brian Johnson from Comic Book Man? It's gotta
Yes.
be. The guy who gained a lot of weight and has a beard and shit?
Yep.
Wow, man.
And he was the initial inspiration for Randall. And yeah, he's got a rockin' fucking beard.
Yeah.
But it's very different than how, like, because you go back, I have the Clerks X 10th anniversary, like, 2-disc fucking DVD.
Yeah, that's
and,
like the definitive version.
And there's the documentary on it where, like, they're interviewing all of Kev's childhood friends, like, and you're seeing, like, really old footage of Walt Flanagan and Brian Johnson. Yeah, he's definitely changed a lot, but he was always my favorite member of the Comic Book Men crew. Like, he made the show for me. That or Robert Bruce.
Yeah, because he would say some funny shit.
Yeah, you really get where, like, Randall came from out of that, and you could kind of imagine what working with him back then kind of would have been like.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is the same Brian Johnson, not to be confused with
AC/DC.
But that concludes the recap, and like I said, I really was happy this movie held up as high as it did. Like, it really hasn't aged a day. It still has a really good flow, tone, theme, writing, like, everything about it kind of worked. And I really, like, if someone were to argue that it was Kevin's best movie, like, it would be a hard thing to debate. Because this is another one of those Kevin Smith movies that, like, even if you're not into the Askewniverse, I still hear some people go, like, well, I know Dogma, and I like Dogma.
Yeah.
Definitely not, it doesn't have the same, like, I dare say, like, snobbish appeal of Chasing Amy, because, like we mentioned, there's those people who are, like, the only good film Kevin Smith ever made is Chasing Amy. I've never heard, like, devout Dogma fan like that, per se, but
yeah.
it really is one of the Kevin Smith movies you hear more about in the long run. And I think it is because it is that with the serious undertones of religion, because Kevin knows how to just put something like a little bit for everyone in his movies, so he knows how to throw in just the right amount of here's the stoner humor for the teenage stoner crowd who likes to watch it for the Jane and Silent Bob stuff.
Yeah.
Here's stuff for people that were his age at the time and maybe questioning their faith. Like, what we've mentioned before in this retrospective is he excels in giving everybody a say.
Yeah, without putting any side down, and without saying any side is right or wrong.
So that's why, like, this movie really doesn't come off as necessarily preachy.
Yeah.
It is a very, casual, laid-back view of ideas and belief systems. And, especially given this kind of subject matter, it could be really touchy to cover. I think he did it really well, and I really think all the controversy it went through at the time, I think it really was just to stir up, some headlines, because it is ultimately harmless. The message that it spreads is, in the end, very positive.
Yeah.
And I don't see anybody watching this movie and getting any negative connotation or, like, being taught to shame anyone else for their religion. And I just find it so ridiculous, some of the stuff that Kevin had to go through, because no matter what movie he's releasing, he's one of those directors who just always had some conniption at his doorstep, whether, Mallrats doesn't have a good theatrical release, people debating over Chasing Amy, whether its representation is good or not, whether, Kevin Smith even has the right to, like, write about this stuff.
Yeah.
Now Dogma, like, people just straight up protesting his movies, and I actually posted on the Fresh from the Basement Facebook page a great segment from the Evening with Kevin Smith where he actually talks about attending one of the protests for his own movies, and the footage from that night is pretty hilarious because, like, everybody in the news station knows that it's clearly Kevin Smith, but, like, he's just sticking to characters so well.
Yeah.
Disguised himself as a protester and just went with his own signs to protest his own movie with, like, 15 other people.
That's fucking great.
Then on the news, he went under the name Brian Johnson.
Shit.
So that's a great clip if you guys want to check it out, because, that's the fun thing about Kevin Smith is once you've seen his movies and you've put your thoughts together on it, you could always kind of go back to the man himself and really get his thought process on the whole thing.
Yeah.
So there's always something else to learn about the whole thing because he remains so candid and open about his filmmaking process. So the Evenings with Kevin Smith, there's about 3 DVDs, I believe. I don't know if they've released more, but there's the DVD sets which come with, like, multiple discs. Really good watch, especially nowadays in the times of, like, quarantine. If you really have nothing to do for a day and you're interested in this side of filmmaking, highly recommend the first Evening with Kevin Smith.
Yeah, I've seen all the Evenings with Kevin Smith, pretty much all his stand-up talking things I've seen, and they've all been, like,
they're all worth it.
Really
but
fucking good.
Like, for me personally, nothing really tops that first Evening with. This is where you get all, like, the classic Kevin Smith stories, like the John Peters Superman story.
Yeah.
Really good talk about Chasing Amy in there as well that I should probably share. Because I referenced that before on the Chasing Amy podcast. That's where he called it a science fiction movie. Really, really fun stuff. That was... The reason why I recommend that one the most is because that is the one he recorded, like, right after the original Jersey Chronicles had, like, wrapped. This was, like, right after Jake Bob Strike Back. And then the second Evening with was, like, right after Clerks 2. and then the third evening with is like after Cop Out. So it's fun how all these evenings with Kevin Smith really document just different times in his career, and you really see him change into the Kev we know him as now.
Yeah, because definitely on the first one, man, he is nervous.
And in a weird way, I almost kind of miss that Kevin, because it kind of makes some of the jokes he says a little more funny, because he kind of has like this deadpan nature to him, but it's still like clearly nervous.
And
so
he is sweating buckets.
So it's like I can't complain that like he's more comfortable on stage now. Like that, I'm happy for him. Because I know for a fact I can't get up in front of like Cornell College and like answer questions for like 5 hours a night.
Which evening with Kevin Smith is it where I think only 3 questions get answered because he goes on this hour-long thing about how it starts off that he took a shit while he was stoned and he was like, it's ropey. But then goes into this, I swear it felt like an hour of just talking about how every time he took a shit, it hurt so bad, and then he had to go do jury duty, and fucking, it was hurting so bad. And
that was the 3 evening with Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
That was the 3rd DVD right after he did Cop Out. That's a great fucking story.
It is, man. It is. But you feel bad for the kid who asked the question and had to stand up there for that whole duration. Like, you still haven't answered my question.
Yeah, but that's what I love about Kevin. Even seeing him live, like, he still hasn't changed a bit. And he's self-aware about it now, where I've seen him twice now, and the first time I saw him was at Caroline's in New York City, and he was like, all right, guys, we could do one of 2 things. Either I can open up the floor to Q&A, or I could read you guys a scene from Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. This was like right when he was writing the script to it. So I think he ended up calling off the Q&A and just ended up reading the scene, and his reasoning was, I know I'm going to only answer like 2 questions tonight, so I might as well just like not even have you guys like get up.
Yeah.
But then the second time I saw him on the Reboot Roadshow tour, it really was that. He answered 3 questions that night. I was going to ask him if at some point in his career did he ever consider going back to the Clerks the Animated Series style for like maybe a short or like maybe some other webisodes or something like that. That's something I would be interested in hearing him talk about, because I've always liked the really heavily outlined Clerks the Animated Series 2D style.
Yeah.
2D style. And I think it would be really cool to see people like Brody return in that style. They did like a series of action figures in that style with all the universe characters, and that's what kind of got me thinking like that. Is like, this is something I would be interested in seeing. So that was the question I was going to ask him while I was waiting online, but it was like me in the front row, and then there were two other rows of people. There was 3 lines, and he was alternating between line 1, line 2, line 3. So like, there was no way I was ever going to get to him. I kind of knew that, but it was still like really entertaining just to watch him like do what he does best.
Yeah.
But that essentially wraps up the Dogma podcast.
Yeah, probably the last Kevin Smith movie in this universe that has seriously deep shit.
So that's why I pretty much label it as the climax to the original Universe Jersey Chronicles, because this was the big. Once you go to God, how much higher could you really get? Now it only seems necessary to wrap it up. You make the movie for the fans.
Yeah, you make your Avengers. Your Skewniverse Avengers.
And we will get to that next week.
Yeah.
With Bob Strike Back, which was one of the first Kevin Smith movies I ever saw. I feel like that's the case with a lot of people. Which is weird because a lot of the jokes in the movie are predicated on you knowing these movies.
Yeah.
But it's still the first one people see, and I think it's just because...
well, that movie was also heavily marketed.
Yes, exactly. And it was one of Kevin Smith's more bigger mainstream blockbuster comedies.
Yeah, and the fact that, like, Afro Man's song had some shit in there. Like, that movie is 2001 incarnate.
I can't wait to get to it because it's always been a movie that, it's hard not to love Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, but it's always been one that sticks out to me as, like, not one of my favorites. And we'll get into that when we get to that podcast. I'm pretty excited to rewatch it and kind of break down what I liked and disliked about it and what maybe the disconnect from this compared to the other original Jersey Chronicles movies might be. So yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm tired as fuck. Probably gonna hit the bed like right after this, honestly.
Yeah, I damn sure want a cig. But you guys, hope you enjoyed us talking about fucking Dogma. And
let us know what your thoughts are on the Basement fan page.
Yeah, hit us up if you want to join in on the fun and interact with us and shit.
Did you like Dogma? Is it your favorite of the US universe? If not, what is your favorite? We're down to talk about anything, man.
Rank all that shit, yo. And
give us your worst to best US universe movies, and we'll discuss it with you. We're always checking the page and always updating it. I'm actually really happy how much it took off, like, right away.
Yeah, it took off pretty well.
So I'm excited to keep adding to it, because it's been a load of fun so far, and I really like adding, like, little links to videos related to the movies we're covering. Like, I really get into that shit, getting people hyped for what we're going to discuss.
Yeah, true that.
But yeah, until next time, Basement Dwellers, hopefully we can see you guys on another episode of The Basement After Dark.
Yeah. Probably, if we ain't got shit going on next weekend, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Stay tuned, folks. It's going to be a good one.
Y'all take it easy.